get into some of the 1800s though, so I don't know. You might want to get that out pretty soon.
I like history here because, like, dude, you're the guy taking on Rockefeller.
Yeah.
You a little worried about your life?
No, not too much. I think the Rockefellers kind of, I don't know. You don't see him around as much anymore.
You see him in emails.
Yeah,
you do see him in emails.
Were they in there? I've kind of.
Yeah.
You really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Not the actual people. I haven't seen that yet. Okay. But like all the mentions of them were in the Epstein file.
I saw the Rothschilds are kind of like the orchestrator of like they kind of synced up a lot of the people. Yeah.
That's what it looks like.
You're the ESPN. What was it?
Oh, the last guy I had in was he was an ESPN basketball writer who fell into the Epstein story and went fucking bonkers 5 years ago.
Okay.
Wrote the greatest thing ever, this guy Henry Abbott, and no one read it at the time. And now, like, I've been shouting it out. So people are like, holy shit, this is a treasure trove.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool.
Yeah, the Rockefellers, I mean, they're definitely, they get a lot of the credit for the industrial model of education, but they built it upon, I mean, we can get into all of the origins of it, but I mean, they built upon the whole Prussian model of education, and they're still very involved. I mean, the Rockefeller, their foundation is still heavily invested into local school board meetings, trying to win local school board elections, very, very involved.
That's wild. We're going to definitely, I love the history of all this stuff too, because by the way, your documentary, awesome, man.
Oh, thanks.
It was one of those because this was a last minute podcast. So I'm like, oh, we got Spencer coming in today. Let me take a look at this real quick. I'm sitting there like this, like googly eyed, watching the whole thing. You did an amazing job. So we'll get into that. But it's funny when I have guys like you in here. I was telling you off camera, it's like a little bit full circle because I'm watching you on Impulsive in like 2018, 2019. And then like back engineering how to do all the equipment on a podcast, going off about 10 to 15 shows. Impulsive's one of them. Yeah. And now you're like, what's up, fam? We want to go on your show. Like, that's very, very cool.
Of course. Yeah, I've been watching you grow ever since too, man. It's cool to see behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's not much, right? It's
you and Joey, you're cooking in here. I love it.
That's right. I cook right there. I sleep right there.
Literally cooking, yeah.
And that's it. That's all it is. That's all it is.
That's what it's about, though. Yeah, you don't need much, man.
You don't want to.
That's so cool. I love that about the stage of journalism that we're in, and just the stage of entertainment and media that we're in. It's just getting to the point where it's so decentralized.
Yes.
And decentralization is key. I mean, we'll get into that with education, and we went down this centralized path where everything in society was moving more and more towards centralization. And, we've seen through history, it's any time we really drift into centralization of power, media, authority, schooling, it's not a good path. It doesn't end well.
I think you're right. I think the data supports that for sure. And that was what I really took from the doc as well. Like, you seem to be drawn on a lot of other themes, like obviously it's focused on the education system and how it got bastardized, but like a lot of themes outside of it that are just like, what are we doing here? But you left LA in 2019?
2019, yeah. Right as COVID hit.
Right.
It's like right as the fences went up on the beach in Santa Monica. I was like, I'm out.
I'm gone. It's a good call.
I bought an Airstream and just traveled the country.
You bought an Airstream.
Yeah.
Wow,
it was
balling like that.
Well, it was crazy. I mean, I had saved up from Impulsive enough to get the Airstream and just start going. And I was kind of getting a little burnt out from the LA, like influencer media space. And I wanted to do something different. So, I left, hit the road for a couple of years during COVID, and then went full-time humanitarian in 2022.
Wow. When you went on the road, where'd you go?
All over the place, a bunch of national parks. Like I went up to the Redwoods for a while. Just went up to Humboldt. Oh man, have you been? No.
I've heard great things.
Oh my gosh.
Hey guys, 3 quick things. Number 1, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It's a huge, huge help. Number 2, if you'd like to join my Patreon for early uncensored releases of the full episodes, you can join via the link in my description or in the pinned comment below. And number 3, if you'd like to join my clipping community for a chance to make content from the show and make money, you can join via the Discord link in my description below.
The Redwoods will change your life. I mean, it changed my life, man. Those trees, they're biggest trees in the world.
No masks out there, right?
Masks?
You didn't have to wear
I didn't wear that. Yeah. I ditched those. It was crazy. I went to Zion National Park, and they had shut down. It was like around the time when they were telling people don't go outside, which is crazy because It's like the best thing you could possibly do. Like we found going inside and being in the AC was like the worst way to spread the virus. And so I was in Zion National Park and there's supposed to be like 30,000 people and there was no one. It was a ghost, like no one. I was driving through the national park and there wasn't a single car. It was the trippiest thing I've ever experienced.
That's kind of nice though, having a place like that to yourself. It's like you're just a speck out there in the world where things are simple. You don't have 40 news stations showing death counts on the side of the screen all day. You just get in touch with the outdoors. Like, sounds simple, but it's the best medicine.
Absolutely. It made me realize how much of it was a psyop in the sense of, you know, just fear. It was all fear-based. And as information started to come out and show, you know, kids aren't as affected, and it really started to show who was really the ones that were at risk, but then they just locked everyone down. You know, it's like, that's another example of like a standardized approach, right? That was like the apex of a standardized system. Let's just throw a standardized solution at this problem. And we see, especially with education, oh my gosh, man, it's disastrous what happened because of COVID with schooling. I mean, kids are still not recovered pre-pandemic academics. Like they're still, 2 years behind. Yeah. And then you have the CDC reported 1 out of every 5 kids thought about killing themselves in 2023.
1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. Which is just
like, and that's like any kids, like what, like 10 to 18 or maybe in that area?
Yeah, it was like middle school, high school range, I believe, the study. There's like over 40% of kids right now are experiencing extreme feelings of sadness or hopelessness. So it's just, we're living through right now a cataclysmic moment with mental health. Absolutely cataclysmic.
What made you, obviously you have this experience like a lot of us did where we see the pandemic as ass backwards. You get out in nature, you see it's really ass backwards once you're out there. But like you said, there's this whole theme of like, you know, centralization is causing all these problems, but then you end up honing in on the school system and particularly to do this documentary. What made you choose that?
Well, I was getting a ton of backlash online because I was just, I'd got COVID very early and I was like, okay, that wasn't that bad. I was trying to be compassionate to, other people. But then I started to realize, to what end? And I lost 80,000 followers because I was speaking out about the vaccine mandates. I was speaking out against when they started saying it's safe and effective. So I grew up in Michigan and we grew up near Upjohn, which was bought by Pfizer. And they had that was back in like 2009 when they had that huge $2 billion, it was like the largest criminal settlement from a pharmaceutical company up to that point. Wow. I think it was 2009.
Yeah.
And so they were lying about some of their medications and some of their products. And so that was like, we had that in the back of our mind because we grew up, Michigan is like a lot of pharmaceutical companies there. You have like Stryker Medical, you had Pfizer.
Yeah, Michigan and right here in Jersey. They're all like a half hour away. Oh, yeah. All of them. Dave Scott at Justice Department announces largest healthcare fraud settlement in history. Pfizer to pay $2.3 billion for fraudulent marketing. This is from September 2009. Spot on. Wow.
So I had that in the back of my mind. And so when they came out and they're like, hey, Pfizer, we created this vaccine. It's 100% safe and effective. Instantly in my mind, I was like, that's I just called it. And so I was putting that out online. I was like, this is complete. There's no chance. Just use common sense. Look at their data and their studies. It was a joke. But you look at, just use common sense. You cannot do a long-term study on a product that just came out, right? So I was like, I don't know. I think this is gonna backfire. I think people that are gonna get this are probably going to get regretted. And then they started like pushing, people to, get the vaccine or else you're gonna lose your job and all these things that were just unconstitutional. So I saw all that. But to answer your question, that was going on. I was getting just an insane amount of negative backlash online. And so I was like, you know what, let me just like focus on editing my film. And I'd been working on it for, it took me a decade to make this film.
The one you just put out.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So this was on your mind for a long time.
It was. And so I finally
you.
just locked in. I was like, you know what? Let me just lock in on this edit. Let me stop focusing on social media and just get this done.
How did you end up in Hollywood in the first place, or out in LA, I should say? Because you were there for a little while, right?
Yeah. I moved out there like pretty much right after college. I was working with a guy named Bob Proctor in Toronto.
Okay.
He was in The Secret, the documentary The Secret, the
Oh,
old guy with white hair, all law of attraction.
I don't know if that's clicking, but I know The Secret.
Yeah. He was an OG, and so I was working with him in Toronto, and it was a great job. I could work remote, so I just moved to LA, and I was like learning about mindset, how to use your mind, manifestation, all those things, and then I was out in LA and met Jake Paul. A mutual friend connected to me to Jake, and this is before he started his YouTube channel or anything. I think.
How old was he?
Young, maybe 17.
Oh wow,
18 maybe, somewhere in there. And so we linked up. We did a video shoot in Arizona, and then came back to LA, and he just needed help on video, so I started helping him like with the original Team 10 people.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep.
That was who else was in
New
that?
Hollywood.
Justin Roberts, was he in that?
I think Justin was, yeah.
Who the hell else?
The Dorey twins, my buddy Cade, Alyssa Violet.
There's another girl I'm thinking of that I can't put her name right now. It's gonna kill me.
There was a lot. A lot of people coming in and out.
Yeah,
it was all
OG
New Hollywood.
days.
It was cool. It was like, old Hollywood hated it. Like they were pissed. So any chance they could like kind of try to tamp us down, they did, but it was cool.
Didn't work.
No.
Didn't work. Digital world was going to happen,
Yeah.
like it or not. It's just, I never been out there, and people love talking about Hollywood with everything. It comes up all the time, but like, I feel like they put a veil over the whole thing and make it all one thing, and I know it can't be like that. That said, within there somewhere, there's a weird dark undercurrent of, I think it's probably, looking at this from the outside, a combination of people who are just craving fame at all costs, and then the gatekeepers who can kind of control that, even in the digital world sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That like, it's why so many people online now from the outside look at it and go, damn, seems dark. Did you have any of that type of experience there at all? If you listen to the podcast, you know that I love to walk absolutely everywhere. That includes when it is freezing cold in the winters here in Hoboken, New Jersey. And this past winter, we got particularly rocked with a lot of snowstorms, and it was particularly cold every single day. But you know why my feet were good to go for the long walks in the freezing cold and the snow? Because I have hollow socks. Many of you spend a ton on shoes, but cut corners on the things that go between your feet and the shoes itself, your socks. When it's cold out, your feet are freezing. And when it's warm, they turn into a sauna. Regular socks basically guarantee that your feet are going to feel wrong no matter what the weather is. Synthetic fibers, cotton, even wool, they never seem to hold up to their promises. But that's where Hollow Socks comes in. Hollow Socks are premium alpaca socks, built for both cold and warm weather, long days on your feet, and everything in between. Their ultra soft baby alpaca fiber brings you a how is this legal level of comfort. Hollow Socks are also thermoregulating, which means they're warm when it's cold outside and breathable when it's warm. They're great with moisture managing, and they're also odorless. This is because alpaca fibers make bacterial growth difficult, which reduces the root cause of most foot odor. You can wear these things on the job, doing yard work, hiking, walking outside, lounging around the house, in your office, you name it. They're comfortable everywhere. And right now, for a limited time, Hollow Socks is having a buy two, get two free sale. So head on over to hollowsocks.com, link in my description below, and check it out. That's hollowsocks.com for up to 50% off your first order, link in my description below. And after you purchase, they're going to ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you.
Little bits and pieces, I would see some stuff, but we were in New Hollywood. We weren't dealing with the gatekeepers. We were like bypassing all of that. So we kind of had the benefit of being near all the celebrities and near that culture. But I did hear of like some really weird things. Like there was definitely some influencers. I'm not going to name names, but they would like get pulled into like sex parties and, that kind of stuff. So, and I would hear some messed up stuff with, like Nickelodeon, videographers would also work on like in the porn industry and like weird crossovers like that. So,
yeah.
But I stayed clear of all that. I was like, I'm just going to focus on YouTube videos and working with influencers.
Good move. Yeah, those Nickelodeon documentaries were crazy, bro.
Yeah.
Did
I didn't
you
get
see
invited
those?
to Bohemian Grove, so
That's good.
yeah.
That's good. So you're checked off.
Yeah,
You'd have like a brand on you or something.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not gonna make you strip later
No.
to check, so don't worry. It's okay. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be, as a videographer coming up, you know, that's the golden era, to come up with people who were basically like trailblazing, including like the kind of stuff that we do here, essentially. You know what I mean? Like, what an era.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I got to, like, we had Mr. Beast on before he even was popping on YouTube. He had done a video where he said Logan Paul like 100,000 times.
Yeah.
And so we had him on the podcast, and he came on, and it was just like, to see him get to where he's at now from that, it was just like, what?
Could you see that though? Like when he's young and you're bringing him on because he did that video, could you kind of see like, this dude he don't give up?
I saw his mindset. I couldn't fathom it being as big as it is now. No chance.
Yeah.
It's
kind of, he's built a fucking empire.
Big time.
He's a personal business.
Big time.
He's like a Fortune 50 company.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
But you decide to get out in 2019, go off, spend some time in the Redwoods. You're working on this documentary the whole time. So you're out there, and then you're like, I'm going to hone in on this, and I'm going to break down the system. So where do you even begin with this? Because people would float around theories about what the real education system is online. And I remember like 7-8 years ago, I'm like, there's no way that's real. And then, like, kind of like you get into the pandemic and you're like, maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe this worker bee thing is real. Like, obviously you had that moment even earlier than I did, but like, how do you even unravel that? Do you just go to the start and be like, well, John D. Rockefeller, anyway, let's go? Or is it more that we don't even know about?
Well, for me, it started from my personal experience within public education. I was always kind of questioning things, because from 5th grade going into 6th grade, our school got rid of recess.
They got rid of it.
Rid of it completely. And which is common for schools. Did you go to a public school?
No.
Okay.
I went to a private school.
So you had recess the whole time?
Until middle school. Until the end of middle school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got it in middle school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just started running into a lot of issues within school with authority. You know, it just felt like it was just this experience where I was trying to be molded and shaped, and it was about conformity and obedience and just following orders. Kind of like, you know, I was really passionate about film, but school didn't seem to really care about my gifts. It was like, nope, focus on these tests. So that kind of planted the seed. I was always questioning it in the back of my mind. And then I went to college, got in a bunch of debt. I ended up dropping out my senior year, still had the debt to pay off. But I got a really good job, and I just found success outside of the system, outside of the traditional curve. So it made me start to question things. And then, like I told you, I was working with Bob Proctor, and that was the first time that I actually heard the definition of education, like what it actually meant. And that really, like, a light bulb went off. So the word education comes from the Latin word educo, which means to draw out from or to develop from within. And when I was looking back on the traditional public education system, I was like, it's kind of the exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's like, let's force information in. But education in itself is, hey, we're born with gifts. We have these gifts when we come here. Education is a process of bringing those out and sharing them with the world. Like, that's what education actually means. So then I started to realize, okay, there's a difference between schooling and education. And I'm just like I've always been a curious kid and a curious person. So I just started asking questions just like yourself, like, hey, let's look into this. Like, how did we get here? And that's when I started learning about, you know, the Committee of 10 in 1892 and the General Education Board founded by Rockefeller in 1902. And
who was the Committee of 10?
The Committee of 10 was the NEA. The NEA is now the largest labor union in the country. You saw in the film, I go undercover in the NEA. But the NEA they're the architects of the American education system. They created standards. They created the standardized curriculum, and they enforced that. I think it dates back, to 1857, if I'm not mistaken?
Jesus Christ, pre-Civil War?
Yeah, they've been here for a hot minute.
Dude.
And how they kind of rose up is in 1852 is when the U.S. has its very first compulsory schooling law. Meaning
in English, yeah.
Meaning you have to send your kids to the public school. So before 1850s, education was decentralized. It was widely homeschool. It was religious schools, and there was no government oversight. You know, the word education isn't even mentioned in the Constitution. So we didn't have a Department of Education. We had no centralization of education whatsoever.
Oh, I didn't know. I actually had no idea about that until you said that. It's not in there at all.
Yeah, no. I'm going to do another film and dive into more of the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
The Death of Recess, I really focused on kind of the Industrial Revolution, but the origin story goes back for sure. Yeah.
You can give us a preview today too if you want.
I'm down. I'm
good with that.
I'm not gatekeeping anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in 1852, well, I think if you understand the history, it's really empowering because you start to look around. You're like, oh, this all makes sense. This is like how it all happened. But it all started from a guy named Horace Mann. He's the father of education. He's known as the father of American education. And Horace Mann, he was the very first Secretary of Education in the U.S. in Massachusetts. So just for some context, yeah, there he is. There's Horace. So just for context.
He looks like an asshole.
He's got a pretty wild story. He was very aggressive at going against the religious kind of like up until this point, the clergy, like the church, had really kind of run education. Like school was just an extension of the church. And he was very much against that. Because he had a pretty bad experience. I think when I want to say he was like 11 years old, his brother died while swimming in a river on Sunday. And at the funeral, the priest pulled up and was like, oh, he's in hell.
What?
He went to hell because he was not supposed to be swimming on the Sabbath. God. So definitely had some religious trauma. Yeah, that'll piss you off. So that messed with him big time. And that was kind of like the inspiration for him to really attack the church's dominance on school. So in I believe it was 1843, he went to Prussia. So this is after he became the Secretary of Education in Massachusetts. He had orchestrated this common school movement, which was really like the first public schools. And normal schools. Normal schools were like teacher training schools. So this is where teachers were trained. He believed that education, it should be like parents, they're not really knowledgeable on education. They don't really know. Like the state should be the father of the child. And this was heavily opposed by the founding fathers. Like heavily opposed. Right, you had like Thomas Jefferson, you had, I think it was like Benjamin Rush, John Adams, like some of those OG founding fathers were like the child should be up to the parent. This new idea starts to emerge in the 1830s with the common school movement where it's like, hey, actually let's train teachers, let's make them state certified, and then they're more equipped to teach, right? So it's all about like civic literacy and preparing kids for the Industrial Revolution, like creating workers. But still up to this point, schooling is not mandatory. It's not compulsory. So it's in 1840, when he went to Prussia, I believe it was 1843. And he goes to Prussia, he's with his wife on his honeymoon, and he sees the Prussian system. It's like modern day, Germany area. And it's the Prussian Empire was like the U.S. empire of the world.
They helped us in, I think they were on both sides of the Revolutionary War, actually. But yeah, like they were known as, they would send military mercenaries around the world.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
Very forgotten little empire that existed for sure.
Yeah. And they came to be, I don't know if you want to get into the origins of the Prussian Empire, but the king of Prussia, so Napoleon came in and basically kicked their ass in the Battle of Haina, and I think it was like 1806 or something like that. And the Prussians got their asses beat, and the king, in response to this, is like, "Yo, we need a centralized school system that's going to create obedient people that are going to follow orders, and we need a unified military because we got our asses beat." And everybody was just kind of like independent thought and just doing their own thing. And so they created this just insanely, strict regimented education system, centralized. It's where the bells come from. Like you ring the bell, kids go from one class to the next, standardized curriculum. Everybody's learning the same thing. Students went through, they didn't learn lessons, they learned drills. Like it was all about literally drilling information into these kids.
It's like the fucking Unsullied army.
Yeah.
In Game of Thrones.
You're right.
Just like follow orders and kill.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Just obey.
Yes.
And so Horace Mann goes there and sees, wow, this centralized education system has really created this powerful empire. Because the Prussian system, because of their education system, became very powerful. They became like the world empire because of that. And so when he was there, and multiple other reformers from America traveled and they checked it out, they're like, we should do this. Like, this is how we should do it. And so Horace Mann comes back to the U.S., and then that's when, by 1852, we implement the compulsory schooling laws. That's the very first compulsory education law that exactly mirrored the Prussian model. So he lobbied to bring Prussian education to Massachusetts.
So that was what I was going to ask. He was a lobbyist or something like that, effectively?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the Secretary of Education. And
you know what's so fascinating about that, though? It's another example of like, you have something very broken. In this case, he was looking at a system where, well, the churches are just controlling it and indoctrinating people according to their religious needs. And as a constitutionalist, which is where he starts, separation of church and state should also mean separation of education. That's something a lot of people could say, all right, that makes sense. But then he goes completely the opposite way and says, not only that, but the state's going to control it. And it's like, you have the equal but opposite reaction. Like, I just want the fucking equilibrium right here. You know what I mean? Like choice, let parents control the situation and not have any indoctrination happen.
Yeah. And thankfully, that's kind of what's emerging right now, especially because of the pandemic. But just to give you a little snapshot, from 1852 up until 1918, I believe Mississippi was the final state to get compulsory education. But from 1852 to 1970, we effectively went from probably about 95 to 99% of the country was decentralized education, primarily homeschooled. To 1970, you have about 12,000 kids in the entire country are homeschooled.
Whoa.
So we literally flipped upside down. It's kind of like, people living on the farm to living in the city, right? The Industrial Revolution just changed society night and day.
Yes.
It removed kids from the household. It removed fathers from the household. It put mothers to work. I mean, it just completely separated the nuclear family that, the Commonwealth and the early United States was built upon.
Do you think that was the point?
That was the intention? It seems that way.
Yeah.
It seems that way. How about your thoughts?
I think it very well could be. Looking at it now, there's so many things I would have thought, like I said, like take for granted 7-8 years ago, that now I'm looking at it and I just see the mountain of evidence on both sides, and I'm like, wait a minute, there's a lot more over here. If you ever watch like that old docu with some actors in it, whatever the hell they call that series, Men Who Build America. You ever see that?
No.
It's about all these guys. Starts with Vanderbilt. Great series, by the way. It's back in 2015. Starts with Vanderbilt, goes to like Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller. I think Henry Ford is covered as well. And, it's kind of like showing you all the amazing business achievements these guys had, which certainly they did. But what you're not seeing is kind of the trampling undercurrent of people that they're trampling over 100%. To get to that point. And you wonder if there's like that. I always think about this. If there's that crossing point where someone one day, they started somewhere. You're John Rockefeller. You started as a Christian guy and you found some oil. And then suddenly you're like, oh, fuck, we got a lot of oil. And one day you're looking around the mines or at the oil fields and you're like, you know what? I'm above all these people. And you don't say it like that, but your mind goes, shoop, and now you're that guy, and now it affects every decision you made. Do you think that's
I think
possible?
That's exactly what happened, yeah. There's evidence of that, big time. I mean, Rockefeller had, I believe, 80 to 90% of the U.S.'s oil refining capabilities. And there's examples where there was worker protests, and then he would buy like local newspapers in I don't remember where it was, but he bought like some local newspaper because I think his forces like killed like 20 some workers because they were protesting against the Rockefeller oil monopoly.
Killed him.
Yeah, they killed him.
Those were the good old days. You could just kill
you
people.
could just kill off
Jesus
the
Christ.
dissenting force.
Wow.
I don't remember where that was, but yeah, he had a Loctite grip on things, and clearly was about power. Clearly was about, building his industry and his grip.
Yep, there it is. You're right again. The events described refer to the Ludlow Massacre of April 20th, 1914, when the Rockefeller-owned Colorado Fuel and Iron Company Guards and the Colorado National Guard, well, at least they were teammates together, You want to kill together, I guess.
Yeah.
Attacked a tent colony of striking miners and their families. Wow. Approximately 21 people were killed, including miners, their wives, and children.
And then I think he bought the local newspaper, right? To like cover it up.
That's so sinister, man.
So, yeah, I think in order to get to that level of power, you're definitely not thinking about the commonwealth, right? Like sharing, right?
Yeah.
Some of those Christian family values of like treating your neighbor as you would treat yourself, right? So that's where I think religion became a threat for a lot of these powerful elites, because the religion, for its flaws, like any system has, what it did have working very well was a strong family unit.
Yes.
It was keeping, the biblical order is, kind of undeniable, right? And you see that under attack in our society, now more than ever, with confusion over so many different genders, and, we're removing women from the house, sending kids to daycare, women are going to work, men are going to work. And I'm not trying to vilify anything, but when you look back at how it used to be,
yes,
it's very different. It's night and day different today than it was when our, ancestors were first here.
Yeah, it's an incentive structure too. And that's what's really tough about it. What I mean by that is when people have to make a financial decision as to whether or not to have a fucking kid. One, the system's broken. And you point out so many of these great themes that we'll talk about in your documentary that have happened that are just like, whoa, like how the fuck did we get here? But what you're doing now explaining this history is it's really just slowly, program, all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And that it feels like that's where we're at. And if I could be positive for a minute, it also feels like there's, and in a good way, an inordinate number of people who are actually now like, whoa, tuned into this going, wait a minute, politics aside, everything aside, just like this is, you come after kids, you come after, this perfect thing that's brought into the world and you try to beat it down from day one, that's a red line for us. And now we can see it. They couldn't, you think they knew Horace Mann was going around Prussia and being like, well, this seems like it works, I'll bring that back. No.
Yeah.
You didn't, what were you getting, your newspaper by a horse back then?
Yeah. They had no idea what it was going to become. And yeah, to your point first, it's, because of the COVID pandemic, we had 1.5 million families pull their kids out of the public school system. And those numbers have maintained.
Wow.
And we're projected to see another 5% decrease over the coming years. So you're 100% spot on. Parents are waking up and they're realizing, maybe I don't want the government to raise my kids. Maybe I should take control of that. And we're starting to kind of see through the propaganda of, homeschool kids are weird, and all these different propaganda methods that were used to scare people away from homeschooling.
Yes.
Think about this. So in New York, actually, 1852, that first compulsory schooling law. In 1853, they start enforcing it. Anywhere you had to enforce it, right? Because people weren't really sending their kids to schools. So in New York, there's this story where what they did is they had attendance officers. So they'd have these guys, like probably like a Navy SEAL type dude, go knock on people's doors. And there's one case where a guy he went to 6,000 houses and he brought 128 families to court that were refusing to go to the school. And they would face a $50 fine if
back
they
then.
didn't, back then, which is like $2,100 today.
Yeah.
So that was what was going on. They literally made homeschooling your own kid, right? Raising your own kid illegal in the United States. They made it illegal.
175 years ago.
Yeah. And we're recovering from that right now. So that's the mass awakening, right? The shift that I'm trying to help people understand is, if you can take control of your child, if you could take control of raising your children, that's the most powerful thing you can do for the system, right? We see everything going on with the Epstein and, you know, left and right. You see grooming from the left too, in the education system. You see it in the film. It doesn't matter. It's two wings of the same bird. They, like you said, it's this federal centralized power that's the threat here. You know, you look at our taxation, you know, in like 1776, I think the average person in the Commonwealth was paying like 1 or 1.5% taxes. Today, the average person's paying 25 to 30%.
Don't tell Tommy G that. He's going to have another fucking freak out. 1.5%?
Yeah. Yeah, 1 to 1.5%. I mean,
Come
think about it.
Homeless people for that. Yeah, they're like, give us 3%, Malaka. Let's go.
Exactly.
Oh my god.
I mean, think about the Boston Tea Party was over like, you know, 3% tax on goods, and it was about taxation without representations. That shows the spirit that we have cooked into us, is that we are strongly against centralized authority. But we've just been duped. We've been duped into just we all go to public schools. Let's tear apart the family. Let's just go through this system. Let's just obey authority. That's why we see all these crazy things happening in the world. So that's why when I look at what's going on in the world, I'm like, I'm not that surprised. I understand why. I understand how we got here.
All over the world, though, too.
Big time. Yeah.
Why all over the world? Because we've been talking about America, obviously, but other places as well. What makes you say that?
In terms of
like
chaos?
Why the chaos happens and why it's explainable.
I mean, you see the same thing with the Soviet Union. You know, they centralized authority, they centralized education, and so it doesn't matter if it's a communist country, if it's a capitalist country. The moment you centralize and you have state sanctioned or government sanctioned education, I think the moment the Soviet Union took control of education, it was 70 years until they collapsed. The moment that Nazi Germany mandated the Nazi takeover of the Prussian system. I think it was like 1939, the like Nazi education law. What, we're talking 5-6 years until they fall. So you see that kind of common trend. It's like as soon as you have a centralized authority come and try to capture a system, that's what I was saying. It doesn't lead to really great outcomes. Decentralization is always better. So we're seeing a rise of that kind of all throughout the world.
What happens when you hit him in other ways, though? Like you're talking about the education system, which should, of course, be top of mind. But again, your documentary also points out all these other things that are going on. Just some off the top of my head. You have the most powerful lobbies like Big Pharma, who are normalizing fucking SSRIs if some kid has a boo-boo, you know, and telling families it's okay. You have obviously within the schools, like the teaching systems, which are corrupted, and we'll talk about that more later too. You have a society that you correctly point out had kids lose legitimately 2 years of social and interpersonal and true educational schooling in a way for whatever even that was worth because of the pandemic. And like, it's easy for us to think about how much that affects, you know, kindergartners through fifth graders, but I don't even buy that. I think if you were in any level of school from preschool through college and you lost 2 years, we have Andreas sitting here who basically lost his senior year of college and senior year of high school, freshman year of college.
Junior, senior year, and then freshman year of college.
Yeah, there you go. So like, there's no way that maybe certain individuals are resilient, you seem to be, and like it works out, but on a percentage basis, you know, if you have your fingers on the strings like you're the puppet master and you're like, I just need to make sure that I kill off the spirit of 33% of society. You're going to be able to do it if you're costing 2 years across all those different age groups. This is a generational fucking moment, you know, that they got a whole generation all at once. How does that reverberate now in the next generation, the generation after that, when that generation is coming into power in the workforce and then has power in the workforce? Do they even have it, or were their balls cut off?
Yeah, education. I mean, there's so many parasitic forces that have identified education for what it is. It's the schooling system is incredibly powerful opportunity to capture the minds of youth. Whoever controls education, whoever controls the curriculum, whoever, you know, has authority over what's taught, how it's taught, what's not taught, they can control that generation. So that's why education is front and center. It is front and center. And it's the thing that we don't really talk about that often. It's kind of this like, let's brush that. Let's kick that down the road, you know? That's like a background topic. But it's front and center. Like you said, there's so many different parasitic forces that I think it's kind of like an opportunistic, you know, energy that is feeding off the system with the pharmaceutical industry. That's a perfect example, you know. You industrialize the food supply, you industrialize the education system. So kids are going there, they're eating all this, you know, processed food. So they're getting hooked on processed foods. They're getting hit with glyphosate, atrazine, chemicals that are actually literally altering their hormones. They're sitting inside, you know, fluorescent lighting all day. You remove recess from 1950. We had about 2 hours a day of recess in the US.
2 hours.
In 1950. To today, we have 25 minutes.
That's crazy.
Hey guys, if you haven't already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. It's a huge, huge help. Thank you.
So,
by the way, you keep picking on public schools, righteously so. But like, I think this is absolutely infected most private schools as well. I don't really view it as any different at all. And I don't want to demonize the systems themselves, like the people that try to do the right thing within it. It's a system that's been brainwashed on all of us, including the people who are actually sending their kids to get educated there. You know what I mean? There's bad actors in anything, and you've certainly pointed out some, but like, you know, I think about the classrooms and how they're set up. It's like, that's not for creativity. I mean, you talked about it. You said you were growing up, you knew very early you were a creative guy, and you felt, if I'm putting words in your mouth, I apologize, but you felt like kind of cramped in by it, right?
Yeah.
It seems like that would be pretty much any creative kid going to school these days.
Yeah, and thankfully now, on a positive note, we have all this neuroscience, brain science that really shows how beneficial outdoor time is. It shows how much we can even drink in information. Like, we're seeing that it's really only productive to have a 2-hour window of academics per day.
2 hours.
About 2 hours is the most effective. And then we're seeing that recess is more than just a break. We're seeing multiple different bits of research coming out. There's the Link project in Texas Christian University. And then you have Colorado Boulder did a study. So they found that schools that implemented 60 minutes of recess, kids scored 10% higher on standardized tests. And I sat down with the head of the NIH, the National Institute of Health. That he was there for 30 years, and he let me in on all the brain science. And he was like, you know, it's actually in the time in between when you take breaks from something where your brain is learning. It's actually formulated. Like, you know, if you're a musician or if you're a boxer, right? You know, you can't just box all day and get better. You have to take a break. You have to recover, right? Recovery is arguably just as important as the workout itself.
100%.
Possibly more, you know?
Yep.
So that's the same thing with recess. What we're learning is it's like there's this substance in the brain called myelin. It's like white matter. So we're seeing all these studies coming out about kids that are spending too much time on screens. They're losing white matter. I think they just put out a study that showed kids preschool that spend 2 hours per day on their screens are showing a decrease in white matter in the brain. So the way you increase white matter, this is the good news, is outdoor play, unstructured outdoor play.
100%.
And taking breaks, because the myelin, so you have neural pathways forming, and the myelin is like imagine it as like duct tape that's like wrapped around these neural pathways to help solidify it. So we're seeing all this research coming out, and yeah, we're seeing that the actual structure of schooling is detrimental to learning. Has nothing. I mean, you're waking kids up really early, and then you're again sending them to school. A lot of these campuses are locked down because of school shooters, you know, issues with safety.
That's another thing, yeah.
We started hitting that. I'm sure you were on the same boat when we were going through high school. We had to start doing all those drills, and so you're dealing. You know, kids are dealing with that psychologically, and yeah, the whole structure of education, right? The bell rings, you go from room to room. That's still Prussian education. The whole curriculum being standardized, everybody's taking the same test. You know, that's why when I went to Finland, which is, I would say, it's the best education system in the world. It's like night and day different. Finland, for a few different reasons, and I'll get into the irony of it, but Finland does the most amount of time of recess anywhere in the world. They have the most recess out of any nation in the whole entire world. Yet their kids are scoring at the top in standardized tests. I mean, they're competing with China, who spends an ungodly amount of time forcing kids into academics and testing.
The one benefit of communism is they sit the fuck down.
Yeah. The one
Daddy
benefit
won't
is
get shot.
you can get some stuff done. So
I
Finland,
don't like communism.
yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I think the FBI might have heard that.
Yeah. They're like, oh, got one.
So Finland, they don't give any homework to kids.
No homework at
No
all.
homework. They don't give kids any grades until 8th grade. No like letter grades or any of that stuff. So it's really about letting kids be kids.
What's the benefit of not giving out grades until so late?
Are you ready for the red pill?
Well, I don't care what the fucking
Red or
pill
blue
is. I'll
pill?
take it. Let's go.
So grades were created to measure conformity. So the higher the grade, the more conforming the individual. So
Who invented grades?
I think this comes back to the Prussian system, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, let's look that up.
But Carol Dweck, she's one of the, she's a researcher from Stanford. She's a psychologist. She's one of the leading psychologists in the world. And I interviewed her in the film. And they did this experiment in the Bronx, actually, and in Chicago. And they went to the lowest performing test score districts in those cities. And she found this grading scale. Instead of the traditional grading scale, they just threw it out. And they're like, let's try yet or not yet. Those are the two options. You either got it or you didn't get it yet. And what they found is that if you have, they measured kids with brain scans, kids that went through the traditional education grading system, when they were given a problem, they were pretty much brain dead. They had no brain activity. So they had a fixed mindset. That's what Carol Dweck came up with. And then when you had kids going through the yet or not yet system, when you gave them a problem, their brain was alive. Because they weren't labeled, right? They didn't have, oh, I got a D, I'm a D student. They got, I didn't get it yet. Oh, let me keep trying. Let me try again.
It's like in a video game when you can come back to life.
Exactly.
You fuck up a level, it's like, all right, I can try this again.
Yeah, let's run it back. Wow. So that's what happened with these kids. And so in the Bronx and in Chicago, these districts that tried the yet or not yet system shot to the top. They were literally the best the next year at standardized testing.
When was that?
That'd be a good one to pull up.
Not that long ago, though, right?
Maybe a couple decades ago. But
what?
Here's the crazy part. This will blow your mind. The Finnish education system, they saw that research and they adopted it. So they were performing very mid or low mid in education, and they shot to the top. So when I went there, they literally were like, telling me, yeah, I tell people if you want to live the American dream, move to Finland. Because they literally based their entire system off of our research.
Now, why didn't we see this reresearch?
That's a great question.
That's what I want to know.
I'm still asking that question. I don't know. I don't understand it. If you look at all the brain science, if you look at all the research, it makes sense to give kids the maximum amount of time to outdoor exposure and the least amount of time on tests. In Finland, they give kids one standardized test. In the United States, we have 112 from K through 12.
112?
112. So and Finland has ranked, I believe, the last 8 or 9 years as the happiest country on earth. So
something to that. Something for
there.
sure. Yeah.
There's something there.
How many people live in Finland? I don't expect you to know that. Can we look that up, Steve?
I want to say it's like 9 or 10 million. It's like
it's not 2 people.
5.6.
5.6, yeah. Sizable country. Obviously not America, but like that is really, really interesting.
Yeah. And I'm not advocating. I mean, we don't need to like copy and paste every bit of their system, but we should probably listen to the research that we did.
Yeah. When I look back on it though, so I think there were parts of my education that were really good. I actually don't have a complaint about college, and I think I'm really lucky with that. Nice. I understand why a lot of people have complaints about college these days, but I kind of lucked out with that. But then there's parts of when I was growing up where I'm like, that school wasn't as good, that system wasn't as good. This was okay, like kind of a mixed bag. I thought high school was decent, but you're not thinking about these things at all as a kid, because that's not your job to. Your job is to do, this is going to sound really bad to say, but like go where you're supposed to go. And, you know, your parents and the system kind of guide you with that. But looking back on it, I'm not one of these people that's like, well, we should just let the kids tell us whatever they want to do, and we'll just sit back and say, okay, it doesn't need to be like that. But it's also not like, sit the fuck down, Johnny, like we're doing math right now because I said so. There needs to be a balance. So is the balance also putting recess throughout the day? I, for one, think that makes a ton of sense. You mean getting a kid's fucking blood flowing outside, being healthy without a fucking screen, that helps? Oh my God, what an original idea. But then throughout the day, let's say you are going to stay with a day that's 8:30 to 2:30 or something like that. And you're going to say, okay, we're not going to throw out the fact that they're there at that point. Maybe they have to wake up a little too early for that than a kid should. But like the idea, if we had to keep that in place, how would we perfect it? We'd perfect it by putting more recess in. And then also for me, and I don't want to oversimplify this, I just love your thoughts, I would kind of separate creativity with baseline learning. And what I mean by that is, yeah, if a kid doesn't like math, you still got to teach them math, right? If a kid doesn't like reading at first, you still got to teach them reading, but you can find a way to make that fun or more interactive. And maybe that starts, we can talk about with the design of the rooms for one thing. But then when it comes to like art or anything that is a pure creative expression, let the kid tell you what they want to do. If the kid wants to learn to play the piano, don't say, all right, bitch, you got to do Scherzo number 9. No, if they want to play All the Lights by Kanye West, fucking let them play. You know what I mean? Like there has to be that expression where it's like, all right, you have your space to do that. And I think you would actually get a kid who's more well-behaved if they were allowed to do what they wanted to do if it was fun, right?
Yeah, and all of the neuroscience points to exactly that if you have motivated kids, if you have an interest in what you're learning happens automatically.
Right.
Automatically. And, you know, so I went to a lot of different schools in the film that I believe are doing it right and are crushing it. Alpha School in Austin is one of them that's incredible. They're spreading all over the country. I went down to Mexico and
Alpha School?
Yeah, Alpha School.
Can we pull that up, Steve?
Mackenzie Price. She's crushing it. And they kind of, I feel like they kind of have it figured out because they've got, I mean, their kids are crushing it in academics. They only focus 2 hours per day on academics. And then the rest of it is those, like you said, those soft skills, like the public speaking, you know, life skills.
Yes.
Right? Like just learning about how to life.
Yeah.
Which is probably the most important stuff. And our school system today does not really prioritize life skills because they're so saturated with forcing this. And this is not the fault of teachers. I want to make that clear. I'm a huge fan of teachers. And I think teachers are being shackled to an old system and we're not letting them actually teach. We're, you know, and that's from the No Child Left Behind bill and the Every Student Succeed Act, where we actually really like held them to the fire and made their pay based on their students' performance on these tests. That's one of the most, that's the thing that we just got to get that out ASAP. But we're dealing with this kind of these artifacts of our leadership is just, they just aren't, it's not clicking for some reason. I'm not sure. I'm working on it. We're going to, you know, meet with the Heritage Foundation in June and we are trying to like get this in front of policymakers and show them the film and just like, maybe this can spark that awareness, you know, and help people see it. I feel like once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's how it happened with me. Once I saw all the data, saw all the research, saw what we're actually doing, I was like, this just seems so obvious.
Yeah.
But Alpha School is a great example. I mean, they're a private school. She is fighting to get into charter schools but it's just so,
all the time.
Well, it's so gate kept.
Yeah.
You know, the State Board of Education, it's like something new and innovative comes by and it threatens all of their money. It threatens all of their donors. It threatens the textbook monopolies. It threatens the curriculum monopolies. And so they're like, no, stay out. So that's why a lot of the innovation that's happening within education in America, it's like, it's just happening in those charter schools and or, you know, more so in the private schools. And it's kind of only for people that have money. So that's why I'm like, we got to bring this to everyone. We got to get this into the public schools.
I met so many impressive kids from charter schools over the years. So many impressive ones. And I met some from charter schools where it's like expense is not an issue, which I should know that. I don't even know how that works in some of these. I should ask that question. But like, you know, they're not paying 15 grand a year to go there or whatever, like maybe they're selected to go in there or they apply and there's some sort of funding that actually goes to it. I know there was a fight about that and continues to be in the government. And it's like, you know, probably the thing that stood out about just thinking of the kids I know who went to charter school the most is that the interpersonal skills were tremendous. So maybe they're kind of teaching that or letting them learn that.
Yeah, well, charter school is essentially a private school that has access to state money. So it makes basically like a private education. Like that school can run it however they want. They don't have to stick to the government state standards, but they can still get state funding. That's what a charter school is. Private school, they don't have any state funding.
Right.
Public school, it's 100% state funded. So just to kind of give you like a ballpark idea of how this all works, is imagine like every single one of us, like imagine like a stereotypical American kid, they're worth about $20,000 per year to the system. So depending on where they go, that's where that $20,000 goes. It varies by state, right? Some states are more expensive, some states are less. I'm just giving like kind of an average $20,000. That's, you know, what they're worth. And so it's all based on attendance. Right. So this is why you have this huge battle right now. The battle in American education is school of choice. And there are entities that are fighting like hell to prevent school of choice, mainly the NEA, the ones who created the whole system. So the NEA, they were the architects of the whole standardized education. Now they get paid based on attendance, right? So what's the last thing you want? You don't want those kids going somewhere else, or else you lose that $20,000 per head, right? So they're fighting to ban and, you know, keep school of choice out. But school of choice is gaining serious momentum right now. I think we have like 18 states under Trump's. I think that one of the good things that the Trump administration is doing is school of choice. And they're rolling that out. So parents have the choice to send their kids to charter schools or alternative schools.
Now, is it getting there? Is it getting anywhere this time around? Because like to their credit, I remember Trump pushing that like on the campaign trail in 2015, 2016 as well. And then not a ton happened. Like, are they making progress now because of the pandemic, maybe?
The pandemic. Yeah, they are. They're making serious headway because the pandemic just kind of broke everything. What the pandemic did is the teachers union stepped on a rake because they fought to keep the schools shut. And we knew COVID wasn't really affecting kids the same. So like the smart thing to do was to open schools, and they lobbied to keep it shut. And the schools stayed shut an extra year because of the teacher unions, because they lobbied. So what happened is they were still getting federal funding. So they were all getting paid. They just didn't have to go to work. They could work from home. And what happened, which is the like benefit of that, is it brought the classroom into the home. And so parents saw what their kids were being taught. They're like, what?
What the fuck is this shit?
Right? What the fuck is going on? Or what, like the lack of what is not being taught. And so that woke so many people up. Like I said, 1.5 million families pulled their kids out of public schools. So that momentum is growing. And, you know, people are starting to innovate and come up with new curriculums and come up with all sorts of new, like micro schooling, I think is probably the most exciting solution.
Schooling?
Yeah, it's essentially like homeschooling, but you do it like, say the four of us, we have kids and we hire a teacher, or one of us becomes the teacher, and we all put our kids there at that one house. So it's kind of like collective homeschooling. Imagine it as that. And so we all kind of contribute to the salary of the teacher. And so we don't all have to homeschool, because most families in America can't homeschool, right? Yeah. So microschooling is a great solution. And that was really birthed out of the pandemic.
Whoa. Now, you know, it's also, I think about this a lot. You can quote unquote win the lottery, if you will, depending on where you're born and what your town is and what the situation is. There's problems in the whole system, to be clear, and you're doing a great job pointing that out. But like, my mom was a public school teacher, came up in the whole system, hated the teachers union, refused to be a part of it. So she was what's the term, like black pilled on that earlier or whatever. Good for her. But she taught it like an amazing public school. Like she taught at Council Rock in Pennsylvania, which I can't speak for that now, but like at the time in the 90s, like that was like a really fucking good school. And then like in my town that we lived in, they were doing heroin in the bathroom at like 11. And she's like, all right, well, I have one child, so you're going to private school. And I think that worked out a lot better for me than it would have there. But point being, you have some places where even if I looked at it with the bullshit, like just standardized testing, I could look at one town where the standardized testing is like they're scoring a 500. And then another town over, which is being funded by the same fucking government, they're scoring 1100 or something like that. So it's also like you have different talent levels of teachers, different incentives levels of teachers, different places that are either prioritizing it with tax money or not.
Mm-hmm.
And parents also don't control. So like, how do we fix that too? Is it just purely like be like, yo, we're doing full choice, school choice, or?
Yeah, they've done studies that showed school of choice overall brings the quality of education up the best out of anything. It definitely shakes things up initially, but I think there's probably studies we could pull up to check that out. Yeah, I mean, I think any time that you allow competition and you allow others to bring different solutions to the table, it ends up working out.
Yeah. Now, by the way, if you guys are enjoying this, especially, the documentary is awesome. So we will have the documentary link down below. Highly encourage you check it out. Like you've cited a couple of them today, but you got some amazing interviews in there as well. Like people who were agreeing to talk on this and really provide insight. And, I'm not a father yet. You are, but I'm already thinking about this for when I have kids. It's like, you damn well don't want to be a helicopter parent in any way like that. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in any of that shit. But at the same time, what is like the system done to make you just say, yeah, I'm sure it's fine over there. Like you don't want to just assume it's going to work out.
Well, and it's changed so much, right? Like your mom found out because of the teachers' unions. The teachers' unions have really welcomed in some of these radical, different, ideologies that we have this, in the United States, I think it was 1947, the Supreme Court really, like, that's where we officially did the separation of church and state. And I think, there's a lot of benefits to religious freedom, but where we've gotten to this sticky point where we've invited curriculums like the SOGI curriculum that I uncovered. I had no idea what SOGI was. SOGI is sexual orientation, gender identity. And then you have the LGBTQ, and it's really kind of operated as a religion, but it doesn't fall under the religion category. So it's in this really sticky in between where what happened. That's a whole deep dive if you want to go down it. How SOGI even came to be.
Please.
It's messed up. Yeah. It's wild. So SOGI originated in 2006. There was a summit in Indonesia called the Yogyakarta Summit. And it was funded by John Stryker, who is like the heir to the Stryker Medical Company.
Oh, yeah.
And he's gay, and he's invested a ton of money into LGBTQ initiatives. So he's like the number one investor into all this. And he created this thing called the Arcus Foundation, and they funded the Yogyakarta, summit in Indonesia. And what that was, this was really run by the UN. The UN was like, hey, in order to give you SOGI people and LGBTQ rights, we need like a meeting for all of these different lawyers and psychologists and everybody to gather to kind of codify human rights law.
Where they're paid to come to a pre-desired conclusion.
Yeah. Well, they were paid to be there, so they were hand selected. Yeah. Absolutely. So we can't really rely on that being very, unbiased research, right? And we're seeing that. We're seeing all sorts of harms that these, hormone blockers and, gender transitioning, we're seeing that, like I uncovered that in the film. There's so many harms to children, and like a lot of it turns into you're grooming kids. Right? Kids 100%. At the age of 12 are able to make medical decisions. Kids in Colorado, it's the state Department of Education mandates that you teach kids about SOGI in first grade. Sexual orientation, gender identity. So you're teaching kids about sex in first grade. That's mandated. About
any sex.
Nothing.
In first grade.
Right? And this is like something 80% of parents agree on, but why is it being pushed in the schools? Like, that's the question I ask. I have no issue with people being gay, being trans, do whatever you want. If you want to identify as a, Norwegian red squirrel, I don't care. Like, go ahead.
Oh, but, you're a transracial guy.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Can I be black for the day?
Absolutely. Go ahead, man. I'm not offended. So I don't care. But if you start pushing it on kids, that's where we have an issue, right? And that's what's happening right now is like a lot of parents are like, hey, pump the brakes. So what happened is in 2006, they codified this into human international law. It could have been 2009. I might be wrong on the dates.
SOGI?
That was the Yogyakarta summit, where they created the human rights laws surrounding SOGI. And what that did is it codified it in a international human rights law. Internationally. But what happened is the UN took that and they said, okay, let's start enforcing it. So that's where DEI comes in. And really the UN are like the enforcers. They were the OGs of pushing DEI and enforcing that. And then from there, same Arcus Foundation, you could trace. It's really Arcus Foundation, the Gill Foundation, and it's like the Stryker family, like Pat Stryker. A lot of them are based in Colorado. So that's why Colorado is like the guinea pig. It's like, let's see what we can do here. Let's see what we can create. It was like 4 billionaires flipped Colorado from being a red state to a blue state. There's just 4 people. And those 4 people are the ones that created and funded and established this SOGI, curriculum. And so it's anything against parental rights and against, religious rights. And they attack it. So they funded all sorts of different, advocacy groups to bring this into schools. And that's kind of like GLSEN. They're kind of like the main group that pushes this curriculum into schools. And they funded them as well. So, they hit it from top to bottom to bring it into the schools. And I don't know. I don't know if there's like, some nefarious agenda to groom kids with all this. It seems that way. It seems that way. It seems like that's what you're doing. You're taking advantage of very vulnerable kids. But the issue is, and thankfully, the Supreme Court just ruled with Mahmoud versus Taylor, I think last year, that parents can opt their kids out of any SOGI or LGBTQ curriculum because it's a violation of their religious freedom.
How do they police that, though?
Exactly.
Right.
And the what I uncovered by going undercover inside the NEA, because I actually went to their conference and went into the breakout sessions and heard what they were saying in closed door meetings.
That shit sounded crazy.
And they are actively subverting parents. There's things called like GSAs, which are gender sexuality awareness clubs. And they on camera are saying, I recommend maybe you don't use this name. Try something different. Right. So they have like 40 different inconspicuous names for this stuff. So unfortunately, I don't want to sound like fear-mongering.
That's okay.
But
it's the truth.
This stuff is happening all over the country, and it's happening indiscreetly. It's happening behind parents' backs. And the only way for you to know if it's happening or not is to really go in the school and go find out for yourself. Because anywhere where the NEA is, the teachers' unions, there's 2.8 million members, and they are the largest labor union in the United States. They have a monopoly on education. Anywhere where they have funded this stuff. They've given money to it. They've promoted it. So it's in there.
And it's textbook groupthink ideology too, when it's bastardized in the worst possible way. By the way, when you were filming that though, because like you said, you have the undercover video in the doc. Like, how do you do that without being noticed? You got like a fucking
I don't know if I should give away
something.
I don't know if I should give away my secrets. A lot of it was just on my iPhone.
You just like...
Yeah, I just kind of like propped it up. Yeah. I propped it up on my backpack, actually. So, yeah, they have no idea.
What they were saying.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Anyway, my jaw hit the floor when they were like praising the Satanic Temple. And you just look and like, that's where I come to, I wanted to avoid this stuff when I was making the film. I was like, I want to stay out of politics. I want to stay out of this stuff. I just want to make a film about education. But then I realized like, oh, it's all interconnected. You can't separate them, right? Because education is like the battlefield.
And I think we're fine. We're at a moment right now, too. It's a very unique moment, and I mean this in a good way. It's a fun, dangerous time in the sense that the veil has now been lifted on what I would characterize as like the uniparty system, where you have the Democrats, the Republicans. At one moment, one sounds crazier than the other. It's kind of flipped that way back and forth my whole life. And then you realize they're all funded by the same people. Over time, they support the same systems overall. Maybe they argue about this or that, how to do it, but they generally support the same things. Mm-hmm. And then you see such blatantly insane, depraved, awful stuff like the Epstein stuff we're seeing right now, where every administration, every Congress, D or R controlled over the last probably about 30 years, has put a lid on it and stopped it. So if they're willing to do that for something like that, what are they willing to do for what they don't show you in education? You know, don't ask, don't tell, no pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that, I don't know. This has been a really, it feels like the perfect time for a bipartisan attack here, because we are now realizing that the world is separated between extremely elite people and everyone else. And everyone else includes the homeless guy outside and your buddy whose dad's got a great small business that does like 8 million in revenue in a year, and he drives a Porsche. Believe it or not. Like that sounds crazy, but like he's a nobody compared to what we're talking about. And I just, you know, I try to play with this to not get my brain to go too far off the edge, but once you see it, it's impossible not to see.
All right, maybe this will blow your mind a little bit more.
Blow it away. Pause.
So not one single U.S. president has sent their kids to a public school. And
that doesn't surprise me.
This might blow your mind a little bit more. Horace Mann, the guy that created this whole system, right? Homeschooled his kids.
God damn it.
He had 3 sons.
God damn it.
He homeschooled them. So you're 100% spot on. It's an elitist system. It was built by the elites, and they didn't even send their kids to it. Let that sink in. We all went through a system that they themselves created, and they didn't even send their kids through it. So it shows. I mean, we were viewed as like cattle, you know? It's like, let's just create consumers. Let's create people that are going to just obey and follow orders. And I think that's why everybody's having this crisis of meaning right now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, what does this all mean? We're just consuming things? And it's like, no, that's not how God intended it to be. You know, it's just how the system was captured.
You study a lot of history. I like that. That's how you learn things, but it is, you know, and I try to, I'm an optimist, and I also try to like be like, let's pull it back to equilibrium and all that. But when you see the patterns as they are right now across every level of society, I don't need to list them all off. You know what I'm talking about. We're hitting on one of them today, but like, if this does not change at some point and people continue to fall in the spread of the wealth gap and meaninglessness, you will have a French Revolution moment.
Big time.
People think that, oh, that can't happen in fucking 2020. Bitch, they were fucking burning cities 5 years ago because they were bored for 3 months on the couch. You know what I mean? Like, and that wouldn't be good for anybody.
We could rug the system pretty easily, actually. It's just we've all been kind of pitted against each other.
Yes.
It's all of us are paying taxes. If we all stopped paying taxes, they would have no money.
Yeah.
Right. That's the reality. This is why, in my opinion, this is why they don't teach kids about taxes. If they taught us about the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913 and how all of this was all created, and they said, oh yeah, actually before 1913, your ancestors, they weren't doing any of this stupid shit. No. Right. If they taught us that stuff in school, we would be like, oh, this is insane. We're not doing it. That's why they don't teach it. Right. That's my whole thing is everybody focuses on, okay, there's all these crazy things they're teaching kids. Yes. What are the things they're not teaching us? Right? They're not teaching us like what happened leading into the American Revolution, where they're not teaching us that the founding fathers were in their like 20s and 30s and like got together and were like, nope, sorry.
Fucking ripping hemp and writing out like the greatest documents of all time.
Exactly. Like sacred geometry, and they were just tapped in. So yeah, on a positive note, I do feel like I'm on one side, I'm like, I don't want to push for a revolution. I want to push for a restoration. Yeah. Like, let's just opt out. Let's just step out of that system. And it's probably going to die. It's going to continue to die. But if you opt yourself out and you inspire other people around you to pull their kids out of that system, and you guys kind of start going this way, we start building like regenerative farms. We start, getting back in tune with the land. We start decentralizing the money. We're seeing that happening. Yes. We have kind of the recipe, like you said. It's there. It's brewing. It's just the awareness has to click. There has to be that, there has to be that kind of critical mass moment where
Yes.
enough people, it doesn't have to be the majority, but enough people are like, this isn't benefiting us. It's not benefiting the world, right? All these foreign wars, like, I don't know the answer to this, right? Because like, I don't want to see like in Iran right now, we're at war. We're in a new war. You guys are well aware of that. It's like, man, it just feels like this is like, we're just repeating the same thing over and over. Like, let's just go drop bombs, blow things up, and then it's gonna fix everything. Like, I've spent time in the Middle East, and stuff doesn't work, man. It just doesn't seem like it works.
Yeah.
It might like Band-Aid solution for a little bit, but it's expensive. It puts us into massive amounts of debt. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the charts of like
it's
the
insane.
debt from president to president.
It's insane. That is the can that has been kicked down the road that will blow up at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot not blow up. Does that mean it blows up next year? Not necessarily. But like in my lifetime, if it is not drastically changed, will it blow up? Fuck yeah, it will. What are we, 39 trillion? I don't even know the number now. You can't even keep track of it. It's like 39 trillion or something in debt. Like, yeah, we'll just invent fucking paper money.
I don't even think those zeros would fit on this desk.
They don't. They don't. Yeah, they're the U.S. debt clock. Wow, I got it.
Yeah,
38
you're on it.
trillion 800. I can't even read that number out.
This is how we're supposed to
Like,
learn
yeah,
about
like
the-
how
what the fuck is this?
learn your fucking math. That's what we should do. This is how you teach math, kids. You want to see how much your daddy's
Yeah.
fucking losing in money?
Yeah.
Count this. If you can count. What is this? This is actually really cool.
Yeah.
usdebtclock.org, and it's got every variable. You could teach a whole class on this right
Debt
here.
per citizen.
So our mutual friend Mark Gagnon, has he told you about his schooling upbringing?
No.
Oh, so he's what you call a classically trained conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, excellent.
So his mom
I could tell.
homeschooled him, and instead of like, we're gonna learn 100 plus 50 today, she'd be like, Bilderberg, like hand it to him, and then like 9/11, Building 7, no,
Yeah.
and like his mom, who's a dear friend of mine, his mom was on it with a lot of things, including stuff that like 8 months ago I'd been like, I don't know about. Now it's like, wow, she was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
It's like the quote should be like, a conspiracy is Gagnon's mom plus 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're running out of conspiracy theories at this point.
Yeah, I don't even, I don't have much information for you at this
No.
point.
Do you when you look at that, when you look at the debt picture, like how do you think this kind of plays out? So I mean, you look at like Clinton was the last president to be able to get us into surplus.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he was in
Bad-
a surplus
listen.
of some other stuff, but
Bad guy. Yeah, there's a few things. Bad guy. The 94 Crime Bill Act was terrible, though it was bipartisan. I'll give him that because he lost the midterms. And he repealed Glass-Steagall, which set the course quite literally for the financial crisis. These are all horrible things. Didn't get us into too many foreign wars compared to what we do. They had the whole situation in the Balkans, but not a lot of that. And oversaw the best years in American history. And to your point, this is like saying it's a dwarf among midgets, but, he was the best when it comes to not having our debt be completely out of control. Then you get Bush, Obama, Trump, it all stays the same, D or R. They just put it up because they got a win on a Tuesday in November. And everything is just a fucking narrative. And it's just a plot point for some 30-second ad that some billionaire is going to spend like $10 million to buy on NBC while we're having our bread and circus watching the fucking Patriots lose. It's not... At some point, I think in society, we got to talk about that. And we got to say, all right, what do we play in that system? What role do we play? How much do we just sit on this all day and accept the never-ending scroll and not think about it and be like, you know what? I'm not going to touch that right now. Let's just get it out of here. I think we also do have to look at ourselves too, no?
100%. I think we have the power. Like, we the people. We constitutionally have the power. And if you look at the founding fathers, for as imperfect as they were, they, I think, wrote that thing to prevent us from what we're living in. Like, we just kind of were born into it. Like, there was bad mistakes that previous generation. I heard a quote that I don't remember where it came from, but it was eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
Eternal vigilance is the price of that's a bar.
And
Was that Biggie Smalls?
it could have been, dude. It could have been. It really could have been.
Yeah.
I don't know who ripped that one.
Maybe it's another Keanu Reeves quote.
An Irish order.
An Irish order. Okay.
Oh wow.
Dang. But that slapped.
Yeah.
Is that from 1852? Wow. What a
John
pressing
Phillips
year.
Koran. Probably didn't like the royal family, I'm guessing. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Well, he
shout
knew.
out
That
to
is
him.
an Irish thing to say.
Yeah.
I do feel that's what it is.
The
We
price
have
of
to.
liberty.
Eternal
Oh my
vigilance.
god.
Price of fucking liberty.
He's got a mean.
Yeah, that was
Irish
great.
accent. That was good. He's just whipping a Guinness that down and saying that. He's like, wow, yeah, I spit right there. Not gonna lie, fam.
Yeah. And here we are repeating it.
Yeah, Ben Franklin had a similar quote. He's like, those who, what was it? Those who want protection
Safety
in exchange
right?
for safety, safety in exchange for liberty and freedom deserve neither, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they were dialed.
Yeah, he's my favorite. I studied the shit out of him. He was way ahead of his time, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like just a genius.
So do you feel what would it take? Because I mean, I look at so many things that are happening today, and I'm like, oh, like we already have enough of an excuse to not pay taxes. But like, do you think there's like something where do you see a point where we could get where everybody kind of looks around and is just like, yeah, let's just stop paying them, or maybe not stop paying them in full, but like, you know. Do you see that being a possibility, or could that just destroy everything? Could that make it way worse than it is?
Do you want me to tell you what I want the answer to be or what I think it is?
Both.
What I want the answer to be is say, yeah, fuck the system. Let's all just peace out, throw up our middle fingers, and it'll all work out. The reality is we've been the empire for a while in America, so that means you have no friends. Even your friends are like, you know. You think the British don't remember 76? They still do. They're like, hey, that was us. We had that. And now they got it. You know, so like this, I love our British friends, obviously, but governments are governments. You know, the system crashing all at once would probably, you know, would you want to rule over ashes, or would you want to like rebuild where you do the Phoenix part before the ashes? I'd want to do the Phoenix part before the ashes, which means you probably couldn't just all be like, you know, let's all not pay it. However, the spirit of that and rebelling against at least some of it that we can all agree on. Now that what's that middle ground right there? That might be something, because I mean, how many billions of dollars are we going to spend on Ukraine? How many times am I going to see 10 million of my tax dollars have a senator sign fuck Gaza and send it in to kill kids, you know, on the rocket before they do it? Like, that's not what I'm paying for. What I want to pay for is that the bus picks up the kids and takes the kids to a school where they're actually going to learn something and not be fucking brainwashed. You know, the trash gets taken to the proper place and it's not asbestos in the fucking system. Like, these are very simple asks, but we don't get them. So to your point, yeah, at some point there should be some sort of collective like, yeah, this isn't going to fly.
That's beautiful. Do you feel the boomers are kind of like, once they're gone, do you feel like our generation stepping in is going to have that kind of social awareness? That's the one thing I'm very interested to see.
Well, what do you think?
It's going to be a mixed bag, I'm sure, because the issue with institutional power is they have so much money now and so much influence, and you know, people don't want to give that up once they have it. But I do see, you know, people like Thomas Massey, I think, are a great example, but they're all also getting pushed out. You know,
He'll win.
You think he's going to win?
Yes.
Okay, I hope so.
I think that's a great argument for hope here. I think people are seeing through that. Like, what? He tried to release the Epstein files and said no to AIPAC money, and you're trying to get him out of there? Go fuck yourself.
That'll be a huge win. I think bigger than more people maybe realize if he wins that. What are the polling?
Let's find that out. I'd love to. He's tweeting like right now. to me, him and Ro Khanna are like a protected class for me. I've never said that about politicians, but I'm like, yo, y'all are the least two worst among us right now. He's tweeting like he's scared, which scares me. Maybe that's just on purpose to make sure he wins by fucking 75%. I hope that's what it is. But you know, I feel like a lot of people in Kentucky, you know, they're not too worried about Israel. I feel like they got bigger fish to fry down there.
Yeah.
And when some guy comes out and says, you know, I'm going to make sure that I'm a great fucking friend to Israel and Congress, they're going to be like, what?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm going to stick with this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I got to go take care of my chicken coop
Yeah.
right now. It's like, I got time for this.
I mean, this is the same state that has Rand Paul that's been elected forever. So, I mean, I think that's a good omen. Do we have anything, Deef?
The only thing I got is Calci.
So they're suppressing the polls. That's what they're doing.
He's favorited on Calci.
Okay, good.
Only by 59 to 41.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty decent. All right, if you're listening from Kentucky, get out.
Yeah, what? And by the way,
keep Thomas Massey in.
Look at this. Look at the Calci polling. Since the Epstein files were released right here, he's at 76%. And now he's down to 59.
He is on an upward spike now, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. But I mean, come on, people. This isn't hard.
Yeah, I am optimistic though. I am overall I'm optimistic because so many parents are choosing to educate their kids now. And so I think we're going to have way more critical thinkers in the world. And especially with AI, we're going to have this gap where you're going to have kids like at Alpha School or, you know, different solutions like Notion that I focused on in Mexico. You're going to have kids that are creators that know how to use these technologies to create. And then you're going to have consumers. So my prayer, my hope is that we have a lot of kids that are creators, that are engaging in society and not victims, right? We do not want to teach kids to be victims.
That's
I think
right.
there's a lot of that going on right now where we're kind of teaching kids, oh, you know, this is a racist country, this system's oppressive, and da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's important to, you know what happened, like we've been discussing, but we have to solve problems. We have to, you know, change things, create change. So I'm optimistic that that's going to happen. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but
I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I think we also need to normalize other types of heroes too. So I think it's awesome when you grow up and you have some heroes who are athletes or entertainers and stuff like that. And, you know, maybe they're really good guys too, and they do something really impressive. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I think that's great when kids like that. But I think it'd be really cool if more kids grew up and looked at, you know, like a Navy SEAL David Goggins as a hero and stuff like that. And he's an extreme example because he's the ultimate, you just gotta do it, you gotta be hard, motherfucker.
yeah.
Right? But still, there is something in that. And he lives it, by the way. Like, we've seen all these, I mean, you've seen it up close, but you saw a lot of people come up at the dawn of the internet and they claimed all these things and they look like this thing. And now we're far past the point where we realize, he wrote some checks his ass couldn't cash. David Goggins is still, I watched a video of him like 3 months ago, like finishing some 107-mile race with his fucking knee falling off in the middle of the night. And it looks miserable to me, but like, that's what he said he was doing a decade ago. That's what he's still doing, you know? And I think who our kids look up to and the types of attitudes that those people have about life is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, we used to call that the rugged individual, right? Rugged individualism. And it does seem like you need a little bit more of that. You know, like the warmth of collectivism. I think your governor, well, not yours, New York's governor, mayor is, that's kind of his slogan. Yeah. The more safety nets we provide in society, the safer we make it. And the less risk, you know, the more you can just sue people for anything. It creates comfort and it's expensive.
Yeah.
All these welfare programs, all these social programs are very expensive. But if you can empower people to be rugged individuals, that's where we come from. Like the pioneers, like the early settlers here, that was not easy life. Not easy life. And I wouldn't want to go back and have to live in those conditions by any means. But I agree with you. That mindset being built for whatever can be thrown at you. I mean, the Ukraine war is what it is. I spent a year in Ukraine, and it really taught me.
A year in Ukraine.
Yeah. I spent a year in there.
All right, tell me about that. How the fuck did you end up there?
I was originally going to go for 10 days, and I went.
He's like, content.
Didn't tell my mom. Did not tell mom on that one. I'm like, Mom, hey, how you doing? She's like, where are you at? Ukraine? What? Wow. But I was, I had done some work with a humanitarian organization called Global Empowerment Mission, and they're based in Doral, Florida. I had done some stuff with them in the Amazon, more natural disaster stuff with the Amazon fires in 2019. And that kind of like planted the seed for me to start doing things greater than myself. I was like, I want to try to contribute to something greater than me.
So you went down there while the fires were going on?
Went down there, and we did a cool program where we like bought a bunch of firefighter gear for a bunch of indigenous people that were like just needed stuff to fight these little fires.
Where in the Amazon?
Bolivia.
Okay.
It was on the Bolivia side. And in 2022, I saw the war. I saw the invasion, and it really shook me. I was like, just from a purely humanitarian perspective, I was like, man, this is like messed up. And so I went out there in July, so just a couple months after it had started, and I went to a city called Bucha, which was just outside of Kyiv. And that was where the Bucha massacre happened. So the Russian soldiers basically came in and they killed and they raped a bunch of girls, like really young girls. Like some of them were like 8, 9 years old, 13 years old. They killed like over 500 civilians, just mass graves. And I saw all of it. And I was interviewing these people. I mean, it was insane. And so
you saw the mass graves?
Yeah. Saw it. The battle that had happened. I mean, just like houses blown up, bullet holes everywhere. I mean, it was just like a game of Call of Duty, like had just rolled through. It was the most insane thing I've seen.
What's it like though? It's not like you were a special forces soldier who'd seen like 40 tours of duty or something. What's it like to come upon a place where there are civilian, of course, I mean, the regular army men bodies too, but like women and children just dead by the hundreds or thousands. I can't fathom that.
No, I mean, that's why I stayed. I was like, I'm staying here. I'm not going home. I'm going to like help these people because they don't deserve this.
Does it desensitize you a little bit once you see that so much?
Yes and no. I think it's more of like you learn how to maybe handle it a little bit more. So yeah, I guess it can desensitize you because I mean, you have to. I mean, the human nature in us has to normalize whatever environment we're in, right? Like when I'm in Ukraine, there's people walking their dogs while the air raid sirens are going off, and there's like Shahed drones flying into the city, and I had to do the same thing, Like I would just be like, I can't stay cowered in fear while these alarms are going off. So
who were you there with?
With the nonprofit that I'm working with.
Yeah, but like, how many people are we talking?
Well, so it's cool. I like the org that I work with because we don't import a bunch of foreign volunteers. So the guy I work with, Michael Capone, he's the founder of Global Empowerment Mission. And so I went in with him, but he travels a lot. And so I started going out to the Donbass, which is like the eastern part of Ukraine. And I spent a lot of time out there kind of helping because the war had shifted from Kyiv to the Donbass. And so I went out there. I was kind of like on the first teams to go out there and start assessing, just like, hey, what's going on? What are the needs? Like just seeing what's up,
What did the people say there in the Donbass? Like, what was the vibe? Were there people? Because that's the one region that people talk about. Like, well, there's Russian speakers. Do they want to be in Ukraine? Do they want to be Russian? Like, there's so much propaganda there.
Oh, the propaganda is crazy. Well, I found that there's a crazy amount of propaganda. And the vast majority of people want to be Ukrainian.
Really?
Yeah, because after the Soviet Union, life was tough, but it was way better in Ukraine than it was Russia. I think from the Western perspective, we look at it like, oh, Ukraine's super corrupt. Yeah, they have their issues. Russia's got way worse issues. Ukraine is definitely more leaning towards being European, obviously, especially now. But yeah, by and large, people wanted to be Ukrainian. I maybe ran across a couple people that were just like, I don't care. But the vast majority of people were like, no, we don't want to go back to that. We do not want to go back to the Soviet Union. So that's why they're fighting. They're fighting like hell to, prevent prevent Russia from taking their land.
It's also wild, though, that you're talking about a war that has estimates of like 2 million casualties, like a million, whatever it was we looked at the other day, Deef, like 1 million dead. And the world continues funding it and continues. And I've had guys in here who are, you know, from the military side who have been there on the lines as well, who can at least also speak to the style of war fighting and everything. And they're like, these motherfuckers, they're fighting for 2 weeks over 14 yards, and there's hundreds of bodies stacking up.
Oh yeah,
and this
brutal.
is happening all over the country. And at some point, you're like, people talk about like bankers' wars and population control. You're like, are we just watching this happen in real time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough. You know, what's the solution? I think if I had the answer to that, then I'd probably be in a different position. I don't know what the solution is. It's tough. I love the Ukrainian people. They're beautiful. Their spirit is incredible. I feel like the Ukrainians have a lot to bring to the world too. So I do.
What do you mean by that?
Their skill, their grit, their abilities. I mean, you look at the drone technology that they've developed. That alone is phenomenal. I mean, they had a really strong tech industry before that was emerging. They have an immense amount of natural resources. You know, do we want that going to Russia? Do we want that staying with Europe? I mean, these aren't the questions that I want to answer, but it's like you kind of have to answer some of those questions, you know, with geopolitics. So judging by Russia, I don't know if we want to see a really strong Russian empire again.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. That's
like kicking the can down the road, right? We already dealt with that. And like, do we want to deal with it again? Do we want to let them regain the Soviet Union? And
that's part of the reason I think you got to stop this war, because they have a GDP the size of Italy. No offense, but they're not like that. They could become like that if you allow them to fight a perpetual war, gain more ground, potentially get access to resources strictly because you kept the war going that they wouldn't have had access to. And now you play it 50, 60 years out, and maybe suddenly they have a GDP the size of China.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm taking a lot of leaps there, but like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Whereas if you just, the West is funding the war too. You can go in and be like, all right, let's make some sort of little compromise here. You could take what would feel like all right, we're letting Putin live. Oh, we don't like that. But people aren't dying, which I feel like they don't care about. And also, sadly, you have controlled growth of where Russia is. And now there's a clear red line. Like if they try anything, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be, the world won't give them a second time for it to be like, well, what about the people that it would just be like, nope, you come over, you're getting invaded. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is why I think it's like, hopefully it's the final war, you know, for them. It's
not looking good, bro. We just fucking invaded Iran, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying the final war between Ukraine and Russia.
Oh.
Hopefully this is kind of like you draw the lines and you enforce that.
I hope so.
You have outside, you know, we were supposed to enforce that when Ukraine gave up their nukes. We kind of had a little deal with them.
Yeah, we also broke promises to Russia too
100%.
in the 90s that cannot be denied.
Yep.
And there's been a lot.
It's a messy.
It's a lot of like hornet's
Non-linear.
nest kicking.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like over and over again, they're like, we'll kick this Putin guy again. He won't care. It's like, well, he just killed 2 journalists in fucking Britain. I feel like he cared. Yeah, we'll kick him again. Oh, now he killed his political opposition. I think he cares. Yeah, we'll kick him again. No, now he invaded Ukraine. It's like, what do you expect to happen?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I'm not the geopolitic expert, but from a purely humanitarian perspective, I think it's pretty clear, like who's on the right side, if you will.
Yes.
I think the Ukrainian people don't want this war, right?
Of course.
If it was up to the Ukrainian people, the war would be over today.
Mm-hmm.
If it was up to, and you know, they would exist. If they gave up right now, they wouldn't exist anymore.
Mm.
So it's a war for existence.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault.
It's not their fault for sure. But you were there for a full year.
Mm-hmm.
So what was, you know, you said you wanted to be there for 10 days originally, and you're there with the guy who's the head of the Humanitarian Foundation. But like, who are you? Are you with specific people in the Ukrainian military? Are you with specific people, civilians who are fixers? Like, what does it look like? And what did you end up doing on a day-to-day for a year?
So I was with a ex-special forces guy in the Ukrainian military, and then some active special forces guys as well. So the military would kind of take us around. Like we went to Bakhmut, Avdiivka, Vuhledar, Kupiansk, like all over the front lines, from Kherson to Zaporizhia, and all throughout the Donbass. And we would go. So our primary mission was to bring food to essentially what happens within, at the time when it was just artillery. Now it's drone warfare. So, I mean, if you're like anywhere 10 kilometers near the front line, like FPV drones, you're literally, whenever we're driving, we're like looking out, listening, no music, because those things are lethal. Yeah. When I was out there in the beginning, it was primarily artillery, but they had destroyed all these grocery stores. They were attacking all the power plants. So these people wanted to stay. And if they flee, they become refugees. And we don't want that. Nobody wants that in Europe. Nobody wants that in the world. You don't want a bunch of refugees. That creates a crisis. So our job was, how can we keep these people here? They want to stay here. Well, they need food. They need water. They need windows to be repaired that have gotten blown out, when it's the winter. So that was our primary focus, going village to village. And, it started with just a small team. And now we have, thanks the Howard Buffett Foundation funds our whole operation out there. So we have, we're doing, I think, like 800,000 people a month receive food from our organization.
That's making a big difference.
It's a massive humanitarian operation, and we're an NGO, so we're performing. And I don't say this to brag. It's kind of, I think it's cool. We only have 3% overhead. So when you look at other nonprofits, or like you look at UN agencies, I mean, they have immense amount of overhead, and they're doing a fraction of what we're doing. So they have an extra zero on their budget, and they're doing less than what we're doing. So that's been cool to work with an organization that's disrupting the space. So
you going back?
Yeah, I'll be back.
When?
June, I think. June or September.
How long you planning on staying?
Not that long. Thankfully, our model is empowerment, and they're empowered. Like, they're all Ukrainians. Like, we have like 3,000 Ukrainian employees. We don't really send any Americans there. Like,
so you're making jobs too.
Yeah, that's what it's about. And, the traditional model is like, send your staff in there and you do it all. Yeah. And then when you leave, you leave. Like, that's not our model. Our model is like, let's empower victims of that disaster. Let's give them the tools they need to help.
I like that.
So I don't really need to be there anymore. In the beginning, I kind of needed to be there because I needed to help, and oversee things, make sure it was going to the right places. I didn't have anything to gain, right. So you got to kind of make sure people are, doing what they're saying, doing what they're saying they're going to do. Were
you ever in situations where you were genuinely like afraid for your life?
Yeah. I could send you a video. I have a GoPro video if you want to watch it.
Send away. Yeah, give it to Deef. He'll pull it up while we're talking.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Let's see if I can find
My
it
friend
here.
Katerina Schultz was actually just there too, and you talk about the drone warfare. We've done a couple podcasts recently really talking about drones as well, so it's like kind of top of mind. But she had to change. She was there, so she does like a lot of cartel reporting. And she had to change the tree line behind her using AI, so it looks fake behind her, behind where a bunch of these Ukrainian soldiers who are mercenaries that they were hiring had their face blurred. So people were like, "Oh, this picture's fake." She's like, "It's not, but the background is changed because the military mandates that you have to change the background and everything because it allows for geolocational targeting." Mm-hmm. Of drones, and people get taken out, and it's like, Jesus Christ, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I do remember, for what it's worth, I remember like when they were, even when I was a little kid, when they were chasing bin Laden, and he would do a video. He would always have to make sure at the beginning he was like doing videos with rocks behind him. And even back in like 2002, the CIA would be like reading for the structure and makeup of the rocks on the 480p video and trying to determine the location of it just based on the rock. So it's like, imagine what they can fucking do now. They're probably like, all right, he's at this longitude and latitude in front of this place because we see that scar in that tree, and out of the fucking 12 billion trees in the country, that one's like, I wouldn't be surprised if they could do that for sure.
Oh, they definitely geolocate. We had to turn off I just texted you the link, so maybe you can send that over to him.
I'll send it to Deef. Go ahead.
Download that. But yeah, you have to turn off your phone's location services. There's a lot of protocols that we had to go through whenever we were getting near the front lines. Just they can pick that up. They pick up the cell service, mm-hmm. and they can just like send a drone right away. we've had a couple close calls with our team. Thankfully, we've got, everybody's been safe so far. So
now this video, you
unpredictable.
and I are gonna watch it. Is this something we can have on screen though?
yeah.
Or
No, you guys could show us.
okay. It's not gonna show like people dying though.
No.
Okay.
Might show some gore, so you might have to.
All right. So we'll just make a note of that if we have to like blur out some stuff. Fortunately,
And this is a
YouTube
little
rules.
bit. This is like a 3-minute video. If you want to watch the full thing, you can, or you can just.
Where do you want us to cut it to if you don't want us watching the full thing?
Well, you could play a little bit from the beginning
Yeah.
just to get context, and then
Yeah.
and then you could skip
do
ahead
it.
a little bit.
And when this was 2022 or 2023?
This was 2023, I believe.
Who's that in front of you?
That's just so we were giving out humanitarian aid boxes here.
Wow, look at these buildings.
So these people, their apartment just got hit by a missile.
Спасибо большое.
So that was artillery that just hit.
Дальше будем лимон ставить. Я уже не могу, меня все внутри дрожит.
У вас подвал нет?
So you can hear in the background, there's like a full-blown tank battle that was happening.
So there's a full-blown tank battle happening right now.
God, it's like, and that's what's not. It's like in the middle of a regular town.
Yeah.
It's one day was normal, and now there's just.
So we saw the smoke rising. So I was like, I just pointed. None of the guys I was with could speak English. So I just pointed at the smoke, and he's like, "Oh, let's go check it out." And this is my buddy Mirne. And we pulled up, and there's this guy. There's a soldier that basically lost his leg.
Ukrainian soldier.
Yeah. So it's just insane. We were like, well, we can't leave him. So we just like threw out a bunch of stuff and just loaded him up.
Понесли. Надо ногу придержать. Придержи ногу. Бегом. Придерживай ногу, потому что она болтается.
And the GoPro's on your head right now. Right?
Yeah. And
This is insane footage, man.
yeah, my heart was like going off. I was like,
За хорошую ногу. На себя. За хорошую ногу. А эту придерживай, блядь. Дай коробку. Да я забираю ногу коробку. Поехали. С рукой?
That means just get out. And then this other soldier saw us and he messed up his hand real bad. And so we loaded him up.
Я понял, я знаю.
How close?
And artillery was coming in while we were leaving.
Хорошо.
Like towards you?
Yeah, around us, yeah.
How close was a hospital or a doctor?
We drove, I want to say maybe like 15 minutes to like there was like a little front line, like undercover. Undercover hospital. I think I showed it.
Just got hit by a shell.
So yeah, basically the Russians like launched a bunch of grad missiles in, and they like blew up. And these guys got hit by them.
Якщо я її вирівняю, буде краще. Якщо ногу вирівняю прямо, буде краще. Да, яку ногу?
Yeah, that was probably the most gnarly. And then we had other situations where we just had to get out, but
Did you, there's so much happening, and you're also capturing to tell the story, and you're also helping normal civilians who are getting hurt. But you are in the middle of a war, quite obviously. Like,
Yep.
Do you have your moments where you're like, all right, might not come home today?
that one was one of them. Because as we were extracting that guy, you might not be able to hear it, but like stuff was coming in, and
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, we could like. There was just this moment where I thought it in my mind. I was like, oh, I could die right now, but you have two options. It's like you're either okay, I'm gonna panic, or let's go. Let's get this guy out of here as fast as possible. So for me, that activated. It's like let's get it done.
Yeah, I mean that's great too. You guys did get him out of there, but like I don't know. It's impossible to know what you would feel like until you're in that moment, right? And knock on wood, I've never had to be in a moment like that. That's insane. But like, is there so much adrenaline going that you're like at peace with it too? Where you're like, you know what?
I even on the video, maybe it wasn't on that clip, but on the way out, I was just like, man, what are we doing? Like, this is war. When you experience war like that, like I think any politician that's pushing war, their kids should have, like somebody from their family should have to be
100%.
involved, because it changes the game.
I'll take it a step farther. I think anyone with, like if we had to codify it in law, anyone with a following of X number and above who's openly advocating for war, they should have to send a family member.
Yeah, or go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's war is hell, man. It's you hear that all the time, but it is. And when you see the human cost, thankfully that guy survived. He lost his leg. But when you see the human cost, like I've been to some of the hospitals out there and some of the stuff I've seen in Gaza as well, you just see all this. You're like, oh man, this is like the last thing we want to do.
Yeah.
We do not want war. And it's easy for all these politicians like Lindsey Graham. Like, hey buddy, I would love to see you put on a tactical vest.
Oh, he's got to get the ball gag out of his mouth first.
I didn't say it.
Listen.
Hey, no, it's
true.
It's true. If you actually went to the front lines and you had to risk your life and you had to be in it, you at least, even if you still supported it, you would at least be a lot more humble. Like the hubris would not be there. Like you'd be like, damn, I have to make a decision that people are going to die. Like it's a tough one. And I think you see our politicians, they're so far removed from that. Like you look at George Washington, that homie was ripping.
He was in it.
You look at Theodore Roosevelt. I didn't know that about him. He was in it. He was in Cuba, like storming trenches. I'm like, bro.
Dude, Theodore Roosevelt, when he was a politician, can we check this, Deef? I want to make sure I'm not making this up. I'm pretty sure it was him. He was literally shot in an assassination attempt and fucking finished his speech.
He did. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right about
that.
Like
he was about that life.
Yeah, they were about that life. To some credit, I mean, Trump at least got shot, but it was just a little, no, just like,
I will give him that though. Like, I had a lot of special forces guys. Like, dude, you find out who people are when the bullets are flying, and that motherfucker,
he was about it.
He was about it.
He got up and like, yeah, that was epic. That was an epic.
It
moment.
Was epic for sure.
You can hate on him, but like that was gnarly.
100%.
When he got up and was like, fight. I was like, jeez, bro.
Insane. Yeah, Lindsey Graham has just been one that I've been abusing on Twitter like crazy, and I'm going to continue to do it because here's the thing. He has been to the front lines and stuff. There's crazy video. I don't know if you'll be able to find this, Steve. There's an insane video of Lindsey Graham and I think John McCain talking to Ukrainian soldiers in like 2014 through a translator, surrounded by all these guys saying like, stoking war, being like, we got to kill the Russian. You guys are going to save civilization or whatever. So they go there and they propagandize people. Like we know how many times the fucking guy's going to Israel. I think he should live there, but it's like, I just want to know what kind of tapes they got on him.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is you had a lot of politicians like going to Kiev, but Kiev's different than Avdiivka.
They're going to the presidential palace in Kiev with Vogue.
And Putin purposely doesn't shoot rockets when, our politicians are there. He doesn't want to risk anything. So
he's not suicidal. He is not a suicidal guy. I will give Putin that. I think people, when they look at someone they don't like, especially, a leader of some country or something, they tend to underestimate their mind. And that's a big mistake. Putin is not a dummy at all.
No. They were doing some dumb stuff in the beginning, but that's just because of their old tactics. Mm-hmm. But they've learned. They've adopted. They're dialed. I don't know how that all ends. I'm glad that they're at least kind of at the table. But I hope. In order to end it, what Russia wants in order to end it is just like laughable. So it's like, geez, it's like one step forward, two steps back. Sometimes it feels.
There's got to be that middle ground. There's got to be that thing where you're giving up something you don't like, but you're not giving up all they want. And there's a clear red line now in the sand that it's like, you do this, you're done.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have that last time because of the back and forth botched diplomacy on both sides for effectively 30 years at that point, But when were you in Gaza? How recent was that?
Gaza was 2024 in March.
Now, how'd you get in there?
I think I had gotten in there through Egypt when the Egypt crossing was up.
Whoa.
Now you can't go in through Egypt. Israel's got it fully sealed off because there was a lot of like tunnels and stuff. under Egypt. So when I went into Rafah, and then we kind of went up into like Deir al-Balah, like the middle Gaza City.
What was that like?
I was just saying in the beginning, it before we jumped on, it was kind of like a game of like Battleship, because we were staying in a house that's on the deconfliction notice. So like basically we would tell the, there's like an organization that kind of coordinates things with the Israeli military, and you have to tell them, hey, we've got humanitarian aid workers here in this house, so that they don't like send a missile and blow up the house. But just days before, the World Central Kitchen, or after actually, the World Central Kitchen workers had been killed. So, and they were driving in a humanitarian marked vehicle. It was just an accident, total accident. They were driving at night and they were mistaken, and they all got killed. Rest in peace to all of them. And so yeah, it was, the windows would rattle anytime there was like an explosion, and you'd hear some gunfire because there's like gangs competing with each other. It was just like Wild West. But
wait, gangs competing with each other?
Yeah, there's all sorts of like inside Gaza, there's like warring gangs. Oh. There's like families that are fighting each other while Israel's also attacking them. It's like, it's messy. It's very messy. But through, one of the beautiful aspects of it was Palestinian people were incredible. Like our Palestinian team, they're amazing. They're incredible humans. The vast majority of Palestinians do not support Hamas. Yep. I think, they just want peace, just like most people in the world. So it was really cool to like get to meet and interact with people like that. And I got to like walk down some of the streets and like meet a ton of people, hand out food and water and blankets and stuff. So it was I felt very grateful to be able to do that.
Were they, how do I want to ask this? Were they angry
big time
at what was happening?
Yeah, big time.
Of course. It's kind of an obvious question, but the reason I asked
we got yelled at a little bit from a couple people, and I like totally understood. Just like a couple younger girls, they were like really angry, and they were like, we don't want your aid. Like we this is your fault. This is your government's fault. And that's heartbreaking to hear, because it's like, I don't support it. If it was up to me, I would not have allowed that at all. And to hear that, and then you're trying to help, and it's like, it's tough.
Yeah. The reason I ask is just because the, $10 trillion question is, if it stopped, I mean, it's technically stopped right now, but is it really, like, if it actually stopped and they were able to have, meaning the Palestinians were able to have their own place before even we get to the 2-country solution, which I've always believed in, would they be able to forgive? Because it's a massive murder that's occurred.
Yeah. I believe so. I can't speak to everyone. I'm sure there's a lot of people that, you wipe out 36 people to get one guy.
Right.
Like I know stories, that's happened, and you create a lot of trauma. These wars create so much trauma, and it's like it creates more perpetual generational trauma and issues that you have to solve down the line. But yeah, I do believe a lot of them can move on past this, and they just want peace. That's it.
I hope so, and I hope I see it in my lifetime, because the whole situation's really sad, and unfortunately, because we can see things, and it's not like the old days where it was, 50 years ago, there were 3 channels that told you whatever it was for the day, and that was it. Now people can see things, including stuff that is not real on any side of any war, so that's always tough. But like, when you see that the intelligence in Iran is so good that they knew where the fucking Ayatollah was taking a shit through traffic lights. Mm-hmm. But then the same Israeli government claims that, we have no idea what those tunnels are in Gaza in our fucking backyard that have been there for 20 years. Come on. You're telling me you got to take out a city block of 185 people for the one guy because you don't have good enough intelligence? I don't buy it. And my buddy Eric Zuliger has an amazing quote that I cite all the time, where he says, people are not their governments, and he's absolutely right about that. And I do try to really separate that. I think, I think sometimes we will demonize all over the world an entire group of people. You pick who it is because of something that's happening. But the reality is, it's like, how do they do our cancer drugs? They kill everything. And ideally, we'd have cancer drugs that maybe could actually cure it by just attacking the disease. I think that's what we got to try to figure out as humanity too. Like, how do you attack the disease of dictatorships and tyrannies and, you know, maniacal governments and stuff like that without discarding all the people too?
Yeah.
Because that's what happens in these struggles. And in this situation, we've seen the people in Gaza discarded. And it's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's why for me personally, I come back to, you know, my faith and Christ. I think, you know, Christ is king. And I feel, you know, when you look at that territory, Jesus, Yeshua was a Palestinian Jew. Like, he was both. And I feel like we have the answer.
He was based.
He was
based before based existed.
Yeah, he invented based. And I feel like we have the answer. You know, we have the answer of like, hey, we have something to unify, to follow. It's just these extremisms are, like you said, it's like, can we surgically remove those extremes on both sides and, you know, make sure if we are wielding our military, it's only used to do just that, and then to protect people. And yeah, I'm with you, man. I think the only pathway we can have is optimism and just trusting God and trying to live up to our, you know, our best potential, because we can't control all these things. It's like, it creates so much anxiety and, you know, angst if we're trying to control everything. So we just got to do our little part.
I got some questions on that. I got to pee really bad, but let's stay right on this when we get back. Too. All right. We'll be right back. On that note, let's talk about Jesus.
Please.
Good. No one heard what just happened before that, but we were talking about Jesus while we were still on the mics before we got back. We're back now. But, you know, did you grow up like Christian, or is this something you kind of came into later?
Yeah, I grew up Christian, grew up Lutheran, but I had kind of drifted a little bit away from the church. Always resonated with Jesus and always prayed to Jesus, always felt a connection there, but organized religion, I don't know, I couldn't really find it when I was a kid. There was a lot of questions. I know you're very curious about like the biblical floods and the Great Flood. It was actually archaeology that brought me a big thing. It was like archaeology and then Ukraine. Like, those two things really brought me back to my faith.
What a combo.
Yeah, I know. So I'm like, I think it's unconventional. Like, there's so many different pathways to get to the same truth. But the moment I started to learn a lot of the archaeology, I was like, oh, these aren't just like these weird, crazy mythological stories. Like, there's actually something to this. Maybe these are metaphors for things that happened, or maybe, you know. So I started to look at it that way, and so much of the archaeology checks out with the Bible. Expedition Bible, great YouTube channel I love.
Give them some love. Expedition Bible,
yeah. Okay. He goes and just actually links things that happen in the Bible. He's actually gone to Sodom and Gomorrah and like shows the archaeology of these actual sites. And so there's just so much archaeological evidence where I'm like, oh, this is actually legit.
That's cool. I haven't seen this guy before.
Yeah, he's got some great, like, that would be a cool, I'm definitely going to show my daughter all these videos for sure. Because, you know, I think like blind faith can only take you so far. Yeah. You know, when you have like concrete faith and you have something you can lean on, then it becomes real. So that kind of happened to me over time.
I think it's also cool, like the journey you talk about with like finding it your own way, discovering it your own way too, rather than just adhering to like, they told me to kneel, now they told me to stand and then do this prayer and whatever. And it's not, that's blind faith to me. It's like, all right, they just said I got to do this. It's kind of like school where they're programming you a little bit. In some ways, the one thing we all have in common is that we're all going to die. And the second thing we all have in common is we technically don't know for sure what happens after. But while we're here on earth, it's very interesting about the human condition that one of our biggest obsessions is trying to figure out what happens when it's all done. And so however, to me, like however people come to peace with that, to be like humble here on earth and be a good person, regardless of how, you know, what type of creator they subscribe to or anything, I'm cool with it. Just don't use religion for wars and stuff like that, like some of the bad people do. And that's 99% of people use religion for good, you know? And obviously you're one of them. I wish.
How about yourself? Are you religious or?
I'm not an organized religion guy, similarly to you in that way. I'm very open-minded on everything, but I have always been very certain that there's a creator. I'm 100% on that personally. And so I just live my life to where, I'm imperfect, but I try to do the best I can and do the most good I can, because one day I'm going to have to answer for that, especially. And it makes you happier to be a good person.
Yeah.
I've seen that in practice over and over and over again. So, I'm like at peace with that, but I just had in my friend Sonny, who's a Muslim, and he understands the whole religion inside and out, and like some of the core tenets of that I think are great. I have in a lot of Christians like yourself who go through all the different parts of that gives them peace and can also point to evidence and things that prove parts of the religion or what the text is based on. And it's like, that's great, man. I think that's awesome. And like, it's clear to me that you have a really intense moral compass, and it guides the work you do. Like, you're a brilliant creative mind, but you're attacking really difficult subjects because you're starting with the what's good and what's evil. All right, let's stop the evil. Let's try to figure out what to do good. And that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I feel, I try to carry conviction with grace, where I do believe in this truth. And at the same time, like, one of my favorite parables from the Bible is the parable of the Good Samaritan, where, to me, it kind of like shows you, someone's asking Jesus, like, how do you live? Like, what's the way? How do I get to heaven? And Jesus uses this parable where, there's these kind of religious elites that walk by this guy that's injured on the road, and they don't help him. And then there's this guy, no religious affiliation whatsoever, but he helps him. He clothes him, gives him some money, takes him to a place so he can recover. And Jesus is like, that's the way. Yeah. And to me, that one sticks with me the most, because it's, and I've experienced that, being in places like Pakistan, Syria, Gaza, Ukraine. It's like meeting these people that I have wildly different life experiences from, but I'm sitting here, I'm breaking bread with them,
right?
And they're grateful, and it's like cool to meet them. We don't even have to talk about religion. We don't even have to like disagree on stuff. We can just agree. We can just help each other. Yeah. And I feel like that's there's something to it that's beyond words to me. I feel like it's so much more about that than it is, okay, I got to do this ritual, and then I'll be saved. And I feel like that's kind of missing the point. It's about living life and going out there and helping people.
Absolutely.
Just being of service.
Beautifully said. Also, you pointed out an example earlier, and there's a lot of this to where if you try to be rigid about it and structure it like that, you can turn people totally the opposite way, like a Horace Mann. You're like, oh, your 11-year-old brother was swimming, so he's on Sunday, so he's in hell. Of course he was like, fuck you for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? There's a clip, I don't know if we can find it, Dave, but it like literally makes me emotional every time I see it. But there's a clip of Pope Francis who's visiting a country somewhere, and a little boy was like so afraid to talk to him, and he started like crying at the mic, and he couldn't talk to him. He was like, come here, and made him come whisper in his ear, and then asked his permission if he could share with the crowd in front of him what he had said. And so the little boy comes up and whispers in his ear, and he asks him permission. He's like, okay. Kid goes and sits down, and he said, so this kid just came to me and said that his father died last year and that he wasn't a believer. He wasn't a believer in Jesus, but that he was a really great guy, and he misses him like crazy. And he was such an example to everyone, did so much good for everybody. And he was so sad because he feels like he's been taught that his dad, therefore, is not in heaven. And it kills me every time with that, because you see this kid crying about it. And Pope Francis, to his credit, who's like in charge of what's a rigid religious institution, if you will, which I give a lot of shit to all the time. So when they're right, you gotta give him a ton of credit. He handled it so beautifully. He was like, of course your father's in heaven. He's like, if he did all the right things and was a good person, do you think like a loving God would turn him away for being, just because he didn't get all the way there while he was here in life, like therefore he's banned to hell. No, it's crazy. And it's nice to hear that from some, you know, traditional leadership structure, because it shows you it's like we all take a shit the same way, bro. For lack of a better way of putting it, we're all just humans trying to figure it out. Doesn't matter what your bank account is. They're not going to bury you with it. And you just got to be a good person when you're here. I truly, truly believe that. And that's how I judge people. It's like, are you someone who tries to do good? Great, you can hang out. If not, no. You know?
Yeah. I love that, man. I think it's a beautiful story. And, you know, there's so many people in the world right now that are just clamoring to these extremes. And I wish everyone could hear that message and get off the horse and have humility. You know, we're very isolated in the West in a lot of ways.
Why do you think that is?
Well, the Industrial Revolution made life very comfortable in lots of safety nets, lots of, you know, we just, you know, you see it, like I'm in Miami and we have a lot of Cuban immigrants and we have a lot of immigrants that are fleeing countries and they are just so grateful to be here. Yeah. And then you listen to some kids that are coming out of high school and they're like complaining. They say, oh, this country is racist. This country is horrible. And you're like, hey, these are the same people. You know, just what's the difference here? Well, people that are dealing with real, actual suffering and real persecution and, you know, they have a different take on what we have here. They're like, oh, this is pretty good. You guys have it real good. And I've seen that, you know, going to war zones, going to, you know, Pakistan was crazy, seeing how people are living. And I come home and I'm like kissing the ground. I'm like, oh, my dishwasher. Like, oh, I love you. Because you just take those things for granted, you know, and I still do when I'm like home on things. I'm like a normal person. I still take things for granted, but yeah, we just are a little isolated over here.
Perspective. That's what you have. Yeah, I try to do drills with myself, like at different points during the day. When I'm feeling a lack of motivation or something like that, I'll think of like a different era. Even like at the end of my workout when I box, and there's days where I'm gassed from the lift, and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm like, man, they had to train swords like 4 times a day, like 1,000 years ago. It's not that long ago. I think I can hit the bag and get through this. But it's hard sometimes because you're like, well, technically I could just leave. No one would know. It's not for survival.
Right.
But like if you can put yourself there and be like, you know what? I don't have to train swords because I don't have to go out and kill someone to survive today. That's a W. So I get to do this for free. Let's fucking, you know what I mean? Like you got to get your mind there. That's a stupid example, but you know what I mean.
Absolutely. My good friend Darren Olien, he has his philosophy is fatal conveniences. Like we have all of these. He wrote a book about it, and it's all about, you know, all of the modern luxuries that are actually fatal conveniences.
I like that.
It's like it's made life great. Like, I mean, think about tap water. Tap water is a perfect example. It's like, hey, we got water just coming straight out of the sink, but it's like, ooh, what's in that? Right? It's not good.
It's got the glyphosate in it. They're killing you. It's all fucked. Yeah, so Darren Olien, Fatal Conveniences. That's gonna go add to the list. I like that.
Yeah, it's a great book, and yeah, I feel that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. We have just a level of prosperity that is just extremely high, but we've taken it for granted.
Yeah, what were you doing in Pakistan?
Pakistan, where there were some floods. There were some major floods. And so we flew in, and there was 35 million people that were made homeless. It's like some of the largest floods in over 2,000 years.
When was this?
2022, I believe. So I kind of
I went any of that here.
No, that one was crazy because the appetite to support Pakistan, you know, or those areas in America, it's like we could not raise any money. So we went there. We did our best, but yeah, there was like 35 million people that were homeless.
35 million.
Yeah, they were living off the side of the streets. So that was crazy. It's just the amount of disease, the amount of, you know, like we all got hella sick from that trip. Like I went down with almost like, it was 115 degrees. So it was like peak summer. I think it was in August.
Is it like the humid kind of?
Oh, dude, humid because of all the flood water. It was like super humid.
Oh, duh. Fuck, I should answer that question.
But,
I bet.
Dude, it was brutal. it was brutal. So that was another one of those moments where like, and we're like canoeing through like shit water. Like you would like press the like handle down, and because it had flooded all these fields, all the septic water was like up. So everybody was just swimming in poop, literally. Ugh. So there's like anybody who had a cut, that was getting infected. So we were like helping try to help kids with their infections. But at that scale, how do you?
Oh, it's nuts.
You're crazy. So you see stuff like that. Yeah, it's happening. No one's really talking about it. So you come back to America, you're like, whoa, holy cow. Like, this place is really good.
Your daughter's a year old?
Yeah. Yep.
Are there, not war zones, but are there things, humanitarian type missions that you do that you're thinking like, damn, when she's like 11, 12, 13, I'll take her with me?
100%.
I think that'll be amazing for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I want all my kids to be, exposed to that stuff early.
Yeah.
My dad took me down to Honduras in 2011, I think. And that made a pretty profound impact on me.
What was going on?
We were just there for like a church mission trip, but we were like we were planting trees, and we were installing some like water filtration systems. And I just remember that was like very formative when I came back. That was like my first experience where I was like, wow, okay. Well, I didn't know life was like that just down there. So
yeah.
How about yourself? Have you ever been on any type of like mission trip?
I don't think I've been on
something like this.
On a mission. That's funny. I don't think I've been on a mission trip like that.
Welcome to come along anytime if you want to come along to something.
There's a few guys I've had on the show that do, and you're now one of them, that go to some pretty amazing places. Like, in all honesty, and I don't say this to be a fucking war tourist, but yeah, I would like to go. I don't want to have to go through what you saw right there. That sucks, but that's kind of a part of it. Like, I would definitely like to go see some of this stuff that I have so many people in here talking about from a first-person experience for myself. Because there's just a separation from it that you have sitting in a fucking armchair without arms, by the way, that is like, you can't fully know. And there's something to also being able to make a difference like you and help people there, or like some of the special forces guys I know help people in other ways there too. That is like to be able to see that up close and, pitch a hand and appreciate what we have here. It's like, we got the best, like, for all of our problems with borders, we got the best geography of all time because we're separated by oceans from most places. And I say this all the time, and unfortunately it's true. It's like, discounting the War of 1812, which was a while ago, we never been invaded, and it shows. We've had a couple very tragic terrorist attacks, but like, as far as some fucking army coming in and saying, yo, this is ours now, we don't understand that here. And that luxury alone is like winning the lottery, just that, being born here.
Yeah.
Like, try to explain that to people in Ukraine. Explain that to people in Gaza.
Yeah, that's where RFK gave this really cool speech I think it was when he was running for president, and I don't remember it exactly verbatim, but he was saying something about how like his dream for people when they hear about America is for people to think about somebody who's digging a well or building a school, not somebody in like combat fatigues with a M16. Like, he wants that to be the image of an American.
Whoa.
And I loved that. I thought that gave me chills, because that's my vision too. If we could, inspire generations of people, we have it so good that instead of complaining about things, let's go immerse ourselves in situations or places where we can't gain anything from helping these people, but let's help them anyway. They're in a bad situation. Let's just help them. No strings attached. Let's just go and try to do something. I think we have that privilege. Like, we all do in this country to some extent, or if we can't go, we can support people who are going. But I feel if we were able to help more kids do that, I think it could make a serious positive impact.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it also, there's an old Conor McGregor quote before he like kind of lost it and was really cool. But like, he was like, people get comfortable with a win. They get comfortable with a win, and when you get comfortable with a win, that's how you get a loss. And I think we're very complacent in society, and we've been comfortable with wins for a long time. And so if you could simulate what it's like to be in a scenario where you strictly lost by the geography where you're located, and you could, more Americans could viscerally understand that, maybe you'd get up and train at 4 a.m. You know what I mean? Like in the game of life that is nation building, maybe we would have more people get involved in trying to identify the problems in our system, which this has been a great tangent, but we're going to get back to that in a minute, you know, with like our education system or with the foundation of what builds a society. Maybe more people would do something. I cite it all the time, but my buddy Tommy G has been mentioned a couple times today. He's got an amazing quote. He's like, I can't boil the ocean, but I can boil my pot. And enough people come together and boil their own pot, you're going to get somewhere with the temperature of that ocean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see that with there's some of our partners, their organizations called Aerial Recovery Group, a lot of veterans. I'm seeing like really cool veteran communities that are they're finding like a purpose outside of the military. And they're some of the most badass and awesome people, like their skill set's just unmatched. So, you know, there are some really great groups like Aerial Recovery Group that they're ex-special forces guys. They go out into these disaster zones. They're doing search and recovery. So, but yeah, I see whenever we do like boil our own pot, I don't know how it all comes back or how it all works. I don't care. I do see that like when you do empower somebody else, it's just incredible what can happen. And I've seen it, you know, in Ukraine. It's like, you saw people that were fleeing the country and were scared. They had no idea what they were going to do. They're fleeing a war zone. And we said, hey, no, let's empower you. How about you help us help your people? And now it's like you see 3,000 of them work. And it's like there's these horrible things that happen in the world. But if we rise up and we empower each other, there's so much beauty that we can create.
I agree.
And that's what I try to focus on. It's like, let's be alchemists. Let's use these things that are, you know, negative or dark, and let's flip it. Let's activate. Let's start serving. Let's rise up. Because empowerment, like I think empowerment beats therapy any day. I think empowerment is the greatest therapy to actually go out into the world
a little more.
I think if you're just sitting ruminating on your past, ruminating on your problems, it's really not going to get you anywhere. I think if you're activating, you're in the world, you're doing something, you're moving, you're taking action, healing happens, right? So that's why I'm big on empowerment. I think empowerment is, you know, that's the model.
Why did they say the greatest antidote to depression is physical activity? Because you're fucking doing something.
Yeah.
The most simple thing, you're just moving your body.
Right.
But like I agree completely, because what you're talking about is the next level. It's doing something, but also having a greater purpose in it. Very, very cool. I agree completely.
Our society's kind of baked in a level of narcissism.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily our fault. It's just because the system was inherently created by narcissists. So it created this structure where you almost have to be narcissistic to succeed. And then
I've never thought about that.
If you really look at it, I mean, it's the opposite is the key to happiness. The key to happiness is to really become a nobody. It's to help. It's to serve. It's to give without expectation of getting anything in return. And we kind of have created this whole reward system and ecosystem and social media landscape that it rewards the exact opposite.
Yes.
And so now it's like you're a salmon swimming upstream. It's how do you swim through that? How do you make positive impact, make change with all these incentives and structures?
I've never heard someone put it that way. That is so perfect. The system was created by elite narcissists, and so they created a system that incentivizes more people who are narcissists that want to become elite to rise up through it.
Yeah.
Oh, they're going to clip the fuck out of that one. And they should. That's really fucking good, man. What does your wife think of everything you do? Because obviously you go to dangerous places and you're married and a father. You know, it seems like she's pretty supportive of that.
Super supportive. Yeah. She told me from the beginning because she knew when we started dating, I was like in Ukraine and going back and forth. And she was like, hey, I'm never going to get in the way of what you want to do. So like, yeah, I was in Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa for a month and down there, and she was super supportive of that. I hate being away from my daughter for that long. It's like, that's not ideal. So I'm trying to avoid doing that kind of stuff, and I try not to, go too crazy. I will go back to Gaza.
People.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I'm trying to empower.
Yeah.
Now I have an incentive to do that.
Yeah, you can zoom in now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, because before I'm like, I want to go. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to be there for a year.
How'd you meet your wife?
Miami. In Miami. She was, we were at a yoga event with my friend. And she's a yoga instructor. So we were both there. I met her. And it wasn't until like a year later, but we started hanging out and had a baby very soon after.
That's really cool, man. That's really cool. You got the important things in life figured out. And I think that's like that's the compass that can then, you're like playing with house money with what you do. And especially when you're doing great things too. You're helping people, which is really, really cool.
Well, thanks, man.
But let's go back to the school stuff, because we left some stuff on the table there, especially some of the things you went deep into in your documentary. But you started to talk about it early on in the conversation. We kind of got off it. With the NEA's creation, that had, if I remember correctly, that was like the Rockefellers funded that.
The Rockefellers didn't fund the NEA, but they, think of it, the NEA kind of created the concrete foundation of the house. And then the Rockefeller agenda came in and built on that foundation.
Got it.
So the NEA, Horace, Mann, they had really laid the groundwork. They created the infrastructure, and then the industrial elites just kind of built upon that.
But now the NEA has all kinds of outside influences. You said it has 2.8 million people in it as well. And so they're constantly basically like as a lobbying group, if you will, as a powerful union that, lobbying to keep things the same. And people, many teachers who are probably stuck in it, who may question, let's say, the top 10 priorities, they're not in a position to be heard.
Yeah, so the NEA lobbied to create the Department of Education in 1980. And since the inception of the Department of Education, they spent $3 trillion. And yet we have some of the worst historic lows with academics now and historic highs in mental health. So we've thrown over $3 trillion at this. It's made things worse. So you ask, okay, how? Well, the NEA has a federal charter, which is really rare. It basically allows them to fund political super PACs. And to your mom's, you said your mom rejected the union. So 36% of teachers are conservative, identify as conservative. Yet when you look at the NEA and the AFT, the two largest teachers unions, 98 and 99% of all of their funding goes to Democrats. So for me, I was like, that's kind of strange. Why? Because if you really, wanted to benefit your members, you would at least mirror their values. And so that's not the case. So the NEA is really, from my, understanding of it and from what I've seen, it's just a front. It's a money laundering operation, and it's a front for creating political activists. I think you saw that here in Columbia University, where like kind of the apex of the academia, because so many people are just stuck in that academia loop. They graduate, they go to teachers training school, and then they get right back into academia. They don't have a lot of this real world experience, and they create political activists. That's kind of the apex of what this system is creating now. It's creating people that are loud and are just using their, not everybody obviously, but they are creating large swaths of people that are victims, and they believe the way through this is politics. And
good luck with that.
Good luck with that. But there's immense amount of funding, and it's really dark money that's flowing into the NEA. And what do I mean by dark money? I mean, there's what I uncovered when I went undercover is the NEA is working with an organization called the Pipeline Fund. And the Pipeline Fund, it's owned and controlled by the 1630 Fund, or I forget, 1630 org. I think it's 1630 Fund. And that is registered in Washington, D.C. as a 501c4, meaning they don't have to disclose their donors. We do know that the Open Society Foundation is one of their main donors.
Yeah, they fund everything.
We know that Bill Gates, he just in 2025 announced that he's pulling out of Arabella Management Group, which owned the 1630 Fund and the Pipeline Fund. But what we do know is that this money that's coming in, we don't know where it's coming from, but we do know where it's going. And where it's going is it's going towards school board elections. Because, so basically every district has a school board that's made up of 5 people. If you can control that school board, you can control what's taught in the school, you can control the entire curriculum and everything. So they're dumping hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars into winning local school boards in highly political contested areas. So the NEA, for example, last election cycle won, I think, like 77% of all races that they were involved in. So you have this dilemma where school of choice is winning. People are fed up with the teachers' unions, but nobody really wants to become a school board member. It's kind of like a not very glamorous thing. So the NEA has this Loctite grip. And instead of saying, hey, let's innovate, let's welcome in change, they're like, let's double down. So that's where it's a war. It is a war for the minds of kids right now. And the NEA has a ton of money. And when you look at parents, they don't have that same amount of money to play, but they have the money through their kid, right? Through the attendance of where their kid's going to school.
Also, what percentage of society ends up voting on the spot that says school board and even knowing who they're voting for?
Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I could name a single person on the school board here. And I don't have kids yet, but I'll bet if I had kids and we were having this conversation, I'd be saying the same thing, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And even if we don't have kids in the public school, we still have 82% of this country goes to public schools.
100%.
So this is where like the worldview of the vast majority of our country is formed. And it's dictated and controlled by the school boards, which are dictating and controlled by the teachers unions,
which is funded by
Open Society Foundation, Rockefellers. It's funded by just the Gill Foundation, John Stryker. I mean, there's just so much money that is flowing within this entity. So they're very strong, and they're not gonna relinquish their grip. They're gonna double down. So unfortunately, that means public school could continue to get a bit worse, because the policies that they're implementing. I mean, again, like the whole SOGI, agenda, that's an 80-20 issue. 80% of people don't agree with it or side with it.
Yeah,
but they're doubling down
proof
on
of
it.
life on the other 20 too.
Right.
Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it's just hard not to think about the layers to it here and what the obvious, I guess, objectives are for these people that run society. It's like, if I wanted to destroy a society from within, I would start with the newest generation being born. I would surreptitiously, behind the scenes, through dark clouded money, buy off all the school boards to make sure that I got my agenda through. I would make sure that agenda included victimization, self-victimization, enforcing depression upon the kids, to questioning their fucking gender when they're 11. Let's say I wanted to control the population and destroy society from within. I would definitely want them doing that. I would have them removed from their parents so there couldn't be individualism at home. And then I would give them all these standardized tests that are total bullshit, that don't really make them smarter, lack the ability to build up their interpersonal skills, and make sure that it was all for one final goal. Emphasis on the word final, because it's like a joke, and that is, you got to get into college. And then I'd have a bunch of 17-year-olds sign their page where it says you got to pay fucking $250,000. By the way, the rate on this is whatever, 7-8%. It's not forgivable either. And you're going to go get a gender studies degree from Bumblefuck University, because that's what's important. But make sure you smoke and drink while you're there and maybe lose your virginity. And then they get out and you're like, by the way, you're in the real world now and we're AIing away a bunch of jobs. Don't worry about it. That education didn't matter. Now you can't fucking pay your bills, and you struggle to get relationships because you can't pay your bills, and you're feeling a certain type of way about that. You're stuck on your fucking phone that we gave you all day to make sure that your attention is on that and not on improving yourself. And by the way, you're still going to be in debt up to your eyeballs 30 years from now, while all the boomers bought a house for like $10,000 that's worth $2 million now, and you're fucked, and they're the first generation that actually doesn't want the generation after them to do better, even if they don't realize it, because they've been programmed to do that. And now you're going to be sitting in your your room when you're 40 years old, and you know what? Maybe just take yourself out. Maybe at that point, there's nothing left to live for. Like if I were programming that child coming out of the womb right there before they even had a chance to win in the world, that's what I would do.
That was like the side effects on a pharmaceutical commercial right there. That was public school.
That's it.
Yeah, man. That's if the devil is real, that would be a textbook. That would be the playbook right there, for sure. And I feel like we are seeing that unfold. If you look at, George Soros, I'm pretty sure he's an atheist. Pretty sure he's a self-proclaimed atheist.
I don't give a shit what he is. He's a terrible guy.
Well, you look at a lot of the behavior, that's where I get to there's got to be some level of truth here or else we drift into this moral inversion. And I believe that's kind of what we're living through is moral, if you can trick people from knowing what's up and down, what's right from wrong, what's male from female, you confuse them, then nothing's good or bad. Everything just is. And there's some, spiritual kind of beauty to that as an ideal of, hey, there's no good or evil. But in this world that we live in, it's insane if you can't call good and evil. Yeah. And that's a lot of these people. They just don't believe in God. They deny God and they actually find joy in attacking anything that is pushing traditional family values.
Yes.
When I was undercover in the NEA, they talked about this term that I had never heard before, but it's called heterosexism, which is anything that affirms traditional gender norms is heterosexist. So girls as cheerleaders, that's heterosexist. Heterosexism.
That's why the Vikings got fucking male cheerleaders now.
Yeah. So that it's anything to attack those traditional values, those traditional norms. And yeah, we're seeing the NEA pumping hundreds of millions of dollars and all these other political orgs pumping hundreds of millions of dollars into these agendas. So it's concerning.
So you're the father of a daughter. She's 1 year old. So she got her whole life in front of her. If she told you that she had a dream to be president of the United States one day, would you support that as a father?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
If she told you that she had a dream of founding her own business and, innovating whatever it is, would you support her as a father?
Absolutely.
Great. I agree. So I think those things are great. I think everyone, regardless of gender, should be able to pursue those things. I do think by the percentages and by biology that is evolutionarily wired into us, though, we have sold women a complete lie and told them that they have to go out into the corporate world. They have to do this busy bee job and pay their bills and, be the big city girl or whatever and all that. And we have de-emphasized the most important job that all women will ever have, which is that they carry children and bring them into this world. And like, I speak as someone who had an amazing mom, like will give the ultimate sacrifices to be the parent of that child. I saw this article the other day from some fucking magazine with the New Yorker. Yeah, The Cut, where the title was something. Can we pull it up, Deef? It made me sick. It was like, Moms with Regret. Why more women are regretting having children and speaking out about it, which is just total fucking propaganda. Mm-hmm. Total propaganda. And you know what's funny? I'm not going to say the social media platform, but there was a social media platform where the top comment was some woman agreeing with it. And when I clicked it, she was a childless mid-30s teacher in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And I was like, chef's kiss right there.
Having kids is extraordinarily challenging. I mean, it is the hardest thing for sure that I've ever done. And I'm the guy. I get the ability to leave the house. My wife stays at home. She's with our daughter right now. It is a absolutely full-time job, at least with one person, probably with multiple people. but you see that even in like New York City, they're pushing, in California, they're pushing free preschool, right? It's like they want to just offer preschool for everyone. And so it's like we're going down this path of, no, let the government take care of your kids earlier and earlier and earlier. We'll take over, we'll help you out. So there's all these incentives to go that road, to go the comfortable path. And that's where, I mean, you look at the biblical order where God is at the top, the man is like the provider, the protector, and the woman is the nurturer. And it's not that the man is better than the woman. That's not what these roles are for, right? That's what a lot of the feminist movements tried to propagandize against. It's a wife being submissive to the husband that's the order that's going to allow the family to flourish, right? Because when you empower the husband and when you support him, he can go out and provide and protect, and that's how we went about things in the beginning of this country. That's how we went about things all the way up until 1852, when we put that first compulsory schooling law and made that illegal. And the crazy part is Horace Mann will go and tell, you can look at the history books. He'll say, oh, parents, they couldn't educate. They're not smart. They don't have the talents. They don't have the time, blah, blah, blah. He would say all these things, but you looked at literacy rates. 98% of boys in New England were literate before compulsory schooling. Now, there's the caveat is 50% of women were literate and only 10% of blacks were literate. But here's the thing. Those are still the highest literacy rates at that time out of anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. This is before compulsory schooling. This is just decentralized education. And as soon as slavery had ended, literacy rates amongst black populations skyrocketed. And by 1910, 70% of African Americans were literate. So it shows that, and they didn't have access to the public school system. So it shows that, no, we did, it was a psyop that we were made to believe that we were dumb before this system. That's complete BS. And actually, that rugged individualism, it was alive and well, because you had kids that were probably 11, 12-year-old boys, mainly going and getting an apprenticeship with their dad, or, working, getting like actual real world experience and not being bogged down by a bunch of debt and all of these things. I don't know if society was worse before all this. I mean, it was definitely less comfortable. I'm not saying we should go back to the 1800s, but we can pull some of these chapters out and maybe reevaluate them.
Yeah, it's like the Bruce Lee quote I say all the time. Take what's good, discard what's bad. Don't discard the good too. It's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Mm-hmm. And you talk about it, and you're 100% right. The hardest job anyone will ever have is to be a great parent. And it's a full-time job in every way. But is it not the most rewarding thing you've ever been a part of?
It's the most rewarding. There's no words that can even be expressed to explain what I felt when I saw my daughter be born, when I saw her come into this world. And so to see the crisis that we have, and to see, like there was like some musical artist who she was like, the one bragging about the abortion that she had, that the baby was like in her belly on the stage. Was that it?
Oh, no, sorry, I jumped the gun. There was another cringe one. I didn't hear about this one.
There was a woman, worse. I forget, she's a blonde singer, but there's a photo, and she had posted on our Instagram and said, oh, I actually I didn't know at the time, but I had my baby here, and they got to hear me perform the song before I killed them, before I aborted them. And it was like this bragging moment of it. And I think you look, it's like 60 or 70 million people babies are killed every year in the world. Isn't it something like that? Yeah. So
Sarah Larson under fire after joke about getting abortion goes viral. The controversy began earlier this week when a TikTok user shared a video from one of Larson's recent concerts filmed during her performance of Midnight Sun. In a caption overlaid on the clip, the fan wrote that she had not realized she was pregnant at the time of the show, and that at least my baby got to... So it wasn't Zara, it was the fan. At least my baby got to hear Midnight Sun before I aborted it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay, so to be clear... wasn't Zara.
Oh, okay.
That's good to her under the bus. It was the fan, but that's the culture,
That's the culture that breeding amongst women. It's heartbreaking.
When you kill hope in society at an early age, you make everything backwards. And I see that with people. And like, I hear the optimism in your voice. I'm an optimist too. There's some things you get a little cynical about, and I try to pull myself out of that, because it's like, we can try to fix certain things, and like I can use my little platform here to try to help do that. You can keep making documentaries to do that, and then hopefully other people can also agree with some of the basic themes that we should all be able to agree on. This isn't hard, but I don't think kids should be a financial decision. I don't think being a stay-at-home mom should be demonized at all. I look, I can't afford a house yet, but I'm looking forward to having a wife that, like, she don't got to work. You know what I mean? If she wants to, fine. Like, that's on her. But like, I want her to have the option of, like, we have kids, you get to stay home and raise the kids and whatever you need. You know what I mean?
I think that's like the biggest win in modern society.
Yep.
If you can have that structure, that is the win. It is. If you can, if your wife can stay at home and it's still, when I get home, it's like, you still got to help, around the house and help, take care of the baby, let your wife have some space. I mean, it's full on, but it's so beautiful, man. It's the best.
That's awesome.
There's just no words. I'm excited for you to have, you want to have like a big family, or?
I do. Yeah. So future Mrs. Julian's going to have a little say in that for sure. But,
Yeah, we're taking it one at a time.
Yeah. I feel like that is the thing. Like, if I can grow this and, get it to a point where I don't have to worry about a fucking dinner bill or something like that. I mean, that's my like barometer in life. If I can take people out to dinner and not worry about what we're getting, like, I've won, And I think that'll probably then extend to like my kids and their education, right? I damn well don't want to set up trust funds and shit for them. I don't believe in any of that. Like, they got to find their own way. But like, on the way there, like, invest in their education and make sure they got a roof over their head, and my wife can have everything that she needs to be able to help make that happen. And the rest of it, like, we'll figure it out as we go. I don't think how you're going to do things until you're in it. I'm sure you can relate to that. It's like coming at you a mile a minute and you got to adjust. So I don't like to overthink, like, I'll definitely do this or I'll be like that. There's certain themes I'm like, I feel like that's how I'll be, and we'll figure it out as we get there.
Yeah, we have the luxury of, there's like, I've been working on this project for 10 years because I was so passionate about education. So I'm grateful that I did that. So going into now having a daughter, I'm like, I'm like way more educated on how I'm going to do this. So we have that luxury of kind of, that's why it's important to really think about this and understand it. If you're going to have kids, or if you already have kids, it's so empowering to know the origins of education, to know what solutions exist. A big thing right now too is ESA accounts.
ESA,
educational savings accounts. So I think there's about 18 states, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it's 11 of the ESA states, but there's states that, and this is a growing movement, is that $20,000 that I was talking about per kid, in certain states, you can take a bit of that money and use it for homeschooling. So I know Arizona's one, Tennessee is one. There's a list of all the different states. So you can actually like reclaim some of that money that is as our tax money from our property taxes, from our, all these taxes, and use it to educate your kids. So that's growing. I think you're going to have the luxury of having access to that depending on what state you're in. So hopefully this continues to grow, hopefully school of choice continues to grow, and like, let's support school of choice. Let's support, all of these different initiatives.
Well, I think it also helps, like, you're a brilliant artist and you've been doing a lot of different content for many, many years. So when you can package things the way you package this documentary, which again, link down below, everyone go check it out, At the Recess. It's like 90 minutes long. It goes by very quickly. You did a great job. Like, if you can keep doing work like that, or put it also in bit-sized pieces for people, just to like move society to get educated on education 10%. That can make a big difference. And, I'm really grateful you came here to break it down for us today, man.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Thanks for popping in.
It's been an honor, man.
All right. So everyone go check out the documentary. I'm sure we will have Spencer back in the future. This is going to be fun. All right, brother.
Big love, bro.
Thanks for coming, Andres. Everybody else, you know what it is. Give it a thought. Get back to me. Peace.
What's up, guys? Thanks so much for watching the video. If you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button before you leave, as well as leaving a like on the video. It's a huge, huge help. You can join my Patreon via the link in the description, and you can also join my clipping community via the Discord link down below. See you for the next episode.